It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are here. We have things to talk about. Indeed, we do. Why last week's Windows update removed Copilot for some computers. Good news, they're bringing Copilot to the Xbox. So there's always that. The FTC has decided to, yes, go ahead with its antitrust probe of Microsoft. And why Microsoft is no longer including the power supply with Surface PCs in Europe. All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 924, recorded Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. No one wants to be plumbing. Hey, you winners and you dozers, it's time for Windowsers Weekly, the show where we get together with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell and talk about Microsoft. Thurrott is here. He's at his domicile in Mexico City. He's, of course, also on the web at thurrott.com. Good day, Paul. Good afternoon, I guess, or buenos tardes, as they say.
Wow. Hello.
Hello.
I don't know what to say. Yes.
Hit it hard. And from beautiful Madeira Park in British Columbia, Richard Campbell of Run As Radio fame. Hey, you hoser. Try to speak the native languages of
How's it going, eh?
Peoples. How's it going, eh?
You want the view? It's cloudy day today.
Oh, let's see the view. A cloudy day in Madeira Park.
Yep. The ocean is flat and quiet. So
I'll be honest,
for now,
the cloudy and sunny days are pretty indistinguishable.
Not bad. The sea lions have moved on because the orcas were around, but the eagles have been active. So
when the sea lions were there, were they noisy?
Oh, very. Yeah. The noxious critters.
They're kind of and they're smelly.
Kind of great. I'm kind of grateful to the orcas moving them along. It's like you can hear them for miles.
The guy who lives below us is a baby, and the baby's not always here, but he's probably here about half the week, we'll say. And he never wakes us up in the middle of the night, but you can hear him when I call him the eaglet, which nobody here understands, but it's because of his bizarre, screechy, whiny scream thing that he does all the time. I'm like, is there a bird of prey murdering something downstairs? What is that? It's a baby.
I came out the door yesterday, and there was a bird of prey on the stair railing right there.
Oh, goodness.
Nice.
And it scared the crap out of me. I think it was I think we have red-tailed hawks, but it was big. It was like big. It might have been a vulture. It was like, whew. But in fact, if it was a vulture, should I be worried?
A vulture?
What does it know that you don't know?
Oh, well.
They hang around waiting for...
I'm not kidding. I was on a walk back when we still lived in Massachusetts, and I looked up and I could see the bird circling, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I walked 5 or 10 more minutes, so it's still up there, and I'm like, is he circling me? Like... He's like, go ahead, fatty, trip. I dare you. I'm like, what's happening? Like, I think he's over me.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. That's all I can imagine. He was like, he's going to come flying down,
Well, I've survived 24 hours. Maybe I'll be okay.
I think you're okay.
And you've survived months.
We have black vultures around here. But it's typically dead seals on the beaches, right? Like that happens.
Yeah.
They clean them up. Thanks for that,
Speaking of moribund, how's Windows doing these days, guys?
I'm glad you asked. It's doing great.
Good opening line, man.
Peak Windows.
This is a good one, yeah.
It's special.
I feel like I'm partying in the bunker at this point. I'm just trying to pretend reality isn't happening.
You're ignoring the cans of gasoline.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. How close are the Russians? No, that's a little too close to home right now. Okay, so how's Windows? It's okay. The best story this week possibly was that the Patch Tuesday updates from, I guess, whatever that was, a week ago, 8 days ago, whatever, apparently is uninstalling the Copilot app on a lot of computers, not all computers. That is hilarious and beautiful and is just the perfect Microsoft Windows moment of all time, and so of course you get all this feedback on social media from people who see the headline and they're like, I see that as a good thing, or like, what's the problem? And it's like, I'll tell you what the problem is. They're going to force install it next month.
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of it. It's like, sorry, but
yeah.
Anyway,
just a reminder that we can take stuff away and we can put it back.
Yeah. And this just is a an awful showcase for how terrible the quality is right now in this group. But anyway, so that happened. And then I think after that, it's pretty much an incredible run of insider stories, right? So just to kind of put where we are in the schedule, like I said, last week was Patch Tuesday. So next week will be Week D. And Week D, we're going to get the preview update for what will be the stable update that we get in Patch Tuesday in April, right? And so there's a bunch of stuff around that. But we have multiple builds since last we spoke, including today we got a Canary channel build, which has some minor changes to the security, the Windows security app and some other small things. Not a big deal. And of course, Canary, nobody even knows what Canary is. So whatever. Doesn't matter. But I think more important was today. And then also, I don't remember when, but I think late last week, we got various release preview builds. And so these are the preview of the preview, if that makes sense. The last pre-release build before it goes to Week D, if that makes sense. So,
but shouldn't that be in like beta rather than in the release build? Where is it going to go in Week D? It's still going to be in the release build. Yeah,
so there's conflicting language around this, right? So what you're referencing is a much more, I would call it engineering-based era, where terms and words made sense and meant something, and we used them and they were accurate, and it's hard to say. So the preview update, as I will continue to call it because that's the name, is sometimes referred to as an optional update. And so in some ways that's a better name because, well, they're both true, but yeah, you can get it in stable. You don't have to be part of the Windows Insider program. You can optionally go into Windows Update and say, yeah, I would like this thing. Now, it wants you to always get those things, but if you wanted to, as a one-off, you could choose to do that. And so they don't really always follow this logical progression where it works its way from, dev to beta to release preview to stable. It's not the way, I'm still trying to get comfortable with that. And then Richard's comment about beta, of course, is giving me PTSD now, but it's okay.
So an order to all of these, right? Isn't there an order? Can't we expect to see a feature in Canary?
There is an order, but it's
over to dev, and then it goes over to beta.
It's random, and it's also a flawed algorithm because sometimes it just skips things. So today we got a release preview build for 24H2. Last week, I think it was sometime, we got a release preview, two release preview builds actually for 23H2, but also for Windows 10, right? So that's always hilarious. And then let me just see what's in these things because we've already talked about most of this stuff, honestly. But the, live caption improvements, right? Voice access improvements, some task manager stuff. Remember, they're recalculating how they display CPU workload percentage, whatever it is. Some widget stuff. Not major. I think it was as recently as last week. It might have been the week before, but at some point I was like, I don't know. I feel like we're building up something, but then I look at this stuff and I'm like, not really. There's really not much going on here. They did pull an update from 23H2. In 24H2, they added those labels to the context menu, to the little hieroglyphic icons, so that you could see that they were cut, copy, paste, whatever the choices are. And actually, they pulled that now, and that might not actually make it into 23H2 at least this month. So I guess we'll see, or this coming month.
Yeah.
And then what was I'm trying to find out what's in Windows 10. Ah, yes. So nothing. There you go. So actually, nothing important. So the last big update there was the inclusion of the new Outlook app, of course, which, everyone loves, and no controversy there at all.
I got to tell you, on this machine now, the new Outlook app is the full-time app. I've actually removed the other icon. So.
I mean,
I still have another machine over there with the old one on, but
I was more impacted by Skype, and I just, I have a winget script that I used when I blow stuff onto a new computer, and I was just looking at that this morning because on this computer I'm reviewing, it seems like a couple of things were missing, and I don't know why. But I looked at it just today, literally, and one of the items in there is Skype, and I was like, well, I guess I can get rid of that.
Still there.
Get rid of that little guy. That's
Last
going
chance.
away.
I got to tell you, I made a call on Skype literally this week.
That's amazing.
Because, yeah. And you have
till May, right?
It sounded great.
Yeah.
the app.
You did
terrible.
Oh, I thought you made a call like deleted it. You actually made a call using.
I made a call about Skype. He made a call on using Skype.
Yeah,
We're going to call it, is what we thought.
We're calling it anyway. Exactly. He's dead, Jim. Sorry.
It does sound great, but the good news is the codec survives. So Teams will sound the same.
Is still there, and admittedly, the client is horrible and filled with terrible people. Right, like it's been hijacked by all kinds of exploits.
Oh, there's a lot of spam and stuff.
There's an incredible amount of spam. You get added to groups that are like these Bitcoin groups or whatever they are, and
how do people think that works?
Because it must work.
I'm in that group. I think I should buy some Bitcoin.
That's it. Yeah, I just got lucky to get pulled into this thing.
So lucky.
I saw this headline yesterday, I think, that said, Apple messages just saved me from the worst messages spam I've ever seen. And all I could think was, if you had a Pixel, you wouldn't have even seen it, you idiot.
Yeah.
The Apple doesn't do anything to protect you from spam. What are you talking about? That's crazy. But anyway, okay, not to get off topic.
You can report it.
Yeah, good luck. Let me see. Actually, I probably no. I don't have
It's like that's kind of like the head of the HOA. I'm going to report you.
How many? It's like a fun. Remember the commercial with the owl, and it was the Tootsie Pop. How many licks does it take to get to the center? And he's like 1, 2, and then he eats it, and he's 3. How many taps and swipes does it take to get into a message in Apple Messages and then mark it as spam and delete it? It's way more than you think it is. It might be double digit like steps. It's crazy. It's stupid how hard that is. It's dumb. It's just horrible. Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent. I just talking about bad software. I don't know. It just came up. I'm losing track because there's so many of these things, but dev and beta in 24H2 and then beta in 23H2 both got updates as well last week. And the big thing there is voice access suggestions. If you have a Snapdragon X Copilot Plus PC enrolled in dev or beta, which I do, you can now talk to it to run apps, but you don't. It's not like a Sierra game where you have to get an old Infocom game where you have to get the wording exactly right.
Exactly. Yeah,
it will actually. It's using AI to understand, like you're saying something like this. Yeah, which is a feature I have to say this thing has needed since this feature has existed, right?
Yeah, it almost makes me want to drag out Colossal Cave Adventure.
Oh, that's a
ChatGPT to it, right?
Right.
Hey, I just opened my Skype and wow, look at this. It says I have a subscription to unlimited calling in North America with my Harman Kardon Invoke speaker.
That is amazing.
But you have to know where that speaker is.
This is like archaeology going here. I wonder if I've been paying for that.
This is like a page of dead technology collected in one place.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
All in one spot. And it's a pretty old picture of me too. So
I like it though. Yeah. It's like a Mad Magazine drawing. Almost.
I think it is from Mad Magazine.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it looks like that style.
That was my one appearance in Mad Magazine.
What's that guy's name?
Al Jaffe? Is it Al Jaffe?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yep. I can't. Dick DiBartolo, who of course was on our show all the time, wrote me and Lisa into a Mad Magazine. So we both have Mad images. Wonder how much I'm paying for this. Expires October 25th, 2025.
Except for that part where the whole thing goes away in May.
View purchase history. You haven't purchased anything yet. So maybe just because that came with a Harman Kardon, which has long been reverted to its...
Yeah, and like I said, I wonder if you know where Harman Kardon
base materials.
It's
been recycled.
It's just a pile of microplastic now.
I'm going to delete all the credit cards they have on file.
Cardon. You got to spell this right, though.
You're being diligent.
Yeah, because, I don't want to... What is the auto recharge is not enabled? Oh, that's...
The Harman Kardon Invoke was from 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You remember that? You tap the head and it give you a
it was a nice little speaker.
I don't know where it is now.
It was their entry into the voice speaker unit last, and it died first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Oh well. Skype.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well.
Okay.
Oh well. And then just
Copilot app removed in Windows 11. Oh well.
Hilarious. Oh well.
Oh well. Oh shucks. Oh, these things happen. How does that happen? Actually,
How does what happen?
Remove an app by accident in an update.
I have really bad coding practices. I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea.
I'm wondering if, oops, I'm on the wrong side. There we go. I'm wondering, and so are you. How did this, we got all out of order. Okay, we're all back now. For those of you watching, I am in the left speaker. I'm thinking there was one guy on the build team who had uninstalled Copilot. And they probably run a program that says, what are the changes? And he's the build guy, and they had all the changes, and it got copied into the changes. Like it had been removed from the build computer or something. I mean, I don't know.
It's probably just a manifest, honestly. And
or maybe it's just
a line got deleted, and because it was deleted, it was uninstalled if it was there, kind of a thing. I mean, I'm just, you're making me speculate. I hate speculating. No, I don't know. I don't know why.
Wild. So wild. Anyway, I'm going to disappear. You continue to talk.
A lot of times people will say to me, do you have any idea why Microsoft would, I'll just invent something like,
stop,
get rid of the old Outlook. And I'd be like, does it matter why? Or are we just going to move on to what, like, it doesn't matter why. Like, it's just
why
it's gone. You're acting like this rationale.
Why is there error? It is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So they're also within these various, Windows Insider builds and channels, there are various app updates occurring. So the Paint app is being updated, I would think it would say here, but I believe it is across all channels. And if you have a Copilot Plus PC and use Microsoft Paint, you have a feature called Cocreator. And Cocreator is where you can draw in Paint and then use a text prompt over on the side. And it will use the combination of the two to create an image. And they're evolving that so that it will do that try again thing, which is kind of the, when you're generating code, you're like, do it again, do it a little bit better. Can you make it a little bit better? Just keep doing it like that. I haven't tried this yet, but I've never been super impressed by the local AI stuff, frankly. But anyway, that's coming. And then Notepad and Snipping Tool are also getting new features. And this part I'm unclear on because these features are in Dev and Canary. It's not clear if they're only for Copilot Plus PC. So I actually, I haven't looked at it yet, actually. I did enroll a normal, like a non-Copilot Plus PC in the dev channel to see what this is like. But on my Surface laptop, actually, let me just do it here and see what this is not on Insider, but I just want to see what it comes up with. Yeah, no, actually it does have this stuff. So this is just a normal computer. All right, I think I just answered my question. And it does have the Copilot menu now. It has the Microsoft account, avatar with a link so you can go see your AI credit balance. So this is telling me then that this is not a Copilot Plus PC feature. So everyone's going to get this. So now you can paste text or write text in Notepad, and you'll be able to use the rewriting tools, right? To summarize, make it shorter, make it longer, change the tone, make a poem. By the way, strongly recommend everyone uses the poem thing. It's hilarious. Completely worthless, but hilarious. So that's cool, actually. So I guess that's coming. I guess that's just coming to everybody.
We're going to have somebody on Intelligent Machines on the next show who says that AI is a existential threat to humankind because it's going to become so smart that it's just going to eliminate us and it won't need us anymore.
Yep. The super intelligent hypothesis.
Yes.
I'm going to counter that with
the future of life.
Basically, what it can do is turn any writing into the Lorax story from Dr. Seuss.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you think that's existential, maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, we're not there yet. I'm guessing is what the
That's what I'm seeing. We're not there yet. Exactly.
Not quite at that point.
Irritatingly to me, they've also added a recent files menu to file, file recent, and then you can see your recent files in Notepad, right? That's a feature that should have been there for a long time. The reason that's irritating is because it's actually on my to-do list for my Notepad replacement app. And now Microsoft did it first. Jerks. Anyway. It looks like you did it okay, Microsoft. I'm not going to dump on it too much, but that's fine. And then there's a new functionality in Snipping Tool called Draw and Hold. It's fascinating to me that Snipping Tool has gone from being a very basic kind of screen capture utility to this thing that actually has a bunch of functionality now. It's really good at taking an image that has text in it and just taking the text out of it. Text, image to text recognition or whatever you call it, is kind of amazing. And so Draw and hold builds on the kind of mini menu you get in there for drawing tools. Like you get like a pen and a highlighter and some shapes and things. And what it lets you do is freehand draw using the mouse or your pen or your finger, I would imagine. And if you, on the final line of that thing, because of course what it looks like is a child's drawing that you would hang on the fridge. But if you just hold it there for a second, it pops, it makes all the lines straight, which, yeah. And then from there, you can resize, move, adjust, whatever as needed. So actually, that's pretty cool. They're also making the snipping tool extensible, which is kind of fascinating. I haven't looked at this too deeply either, but there's now an API. So if you want to call the snipping tool from your own app, you can actually get at functionality from snipping tool. You don't have to bring up the whole app. You can actually just bring up the part you need. So you could, I guess, use it to make the basis of your own screenshot app, maybe one that includes the mouse cursor, right? Which is one of the features snipping tool still lacks for some reason, although you have to think that's coming. And there's some documentation about that up on Microsoft Learn if you're a developer and think that might be of use. So,
well, that's pretty darn exciting.
Well, I'm glad you think so. It is what it is, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Before we move on to other equally thrilling subjects.
Well, I'm hoping I'll catch your attention somewhere in this show. So we'll see.
I'm paying attention.
No. I mean, I'll interest you.
You will interest me.
I can't invent the news. Well, actually, we're getting pretty close. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll start doing that. I'll do my.
Maybe that's
thing.
something Copilot be good at.
Yeah. Hey, it's boring today. Copilot, could you make up some news?
I feel like it would be really cool if I could say to AI, and I'm sure you'd appreciate this too. Hey, check the week's Windows and Microsoft news and assemble a show rundown for us for a show that runs about 2 hours.
Yeah.
With 4 ad breaks, and put that up in Notion and let me know.
I could probably do it in Notion. I could probably do it right now as we're talking, because there's this little nose thing down in the corner. Like whatever that is, Notion AI. Like Nosh, then I get it. Notion, it's a nose.
Is it a nose, really?
Well, it's a nose with eyes, right? Like it's a little face.
Hysterical.
I don't know.
See, I've paid so little attention to it that I don't.
I have never clicked on it on purpose, but now when you're doing the ad, I'm going to do that.
Click it and see if you can write the show for us.
Yeah, I'm going to see what it does.
All right. While Paul is busy futzing around with AI, this would be an opportune time for me to tell you about our fine sponsor for this show. These are actually great guys. US Cloud. What do you think they do? They are the number one in the world, Microsoft Unified Support Replacement, third-party support for Microsoft. In fact, we've been talking about them for a few months now, so I would hope that you understand that. There is a cloud component, though. We're going to talk about that in a second. They are the global leader in third-party Microsoft support for enterprises. They support 50 of the Fortune 500. That number just went up. That's awesome. And one of the reasons they're popular with big companies and small is they save you money. Switching to US Cloud could save your business 30 to 50% over Microsoft Unified and Premier support. But I said to them, great, you're less expensive, but it doesn't mean anything unless you're as good as they said, as good as we're better. You get better support for less. For instance, 2 times faster average time to resolution than Microsoft, twice as fast. And you know what? Time to resolution is a very important metric, especially when the network's down, your hair's on fire. The fact that the cavalry can march in and save you is awesome. Twice as fast. Plus, they have the best engineers. I talked to them about this average of 16 years experience with break fix and Microsoft support. But now US Cloud is excited to tell you about something that kind of lives up to their name. And this is something I don't think Microsoft would ever do. They have a new Azure cost optimization service. So, I mean, I think this is the case with everybody. When's the last time you evaluated your Azure usage? If it's been a while, and for most people, it probably is just the kind of thing you add to it over time. You probably have some Azure sprawl, a little spend creep going on. And it's kind of like, well, we don't really know. How would we find out? Well, here's the good news. Saving on Azure is easier than you think with US Cloud. They now offer an 8-week Azure engagement. It's powered by VBox. It identifies key opportunities to reduce costs across your entire Azure environment. With expert guidance, you'll get access to U.S. Cloud senior engineers, those guys I talked about and gals, with an average of over 16 years with Microsoft products. I mean, really top senior engineers. They will help you identify all of the places where your Azure spend is going. At the end of the 8 weeks, you'll have an interactive dashboard. It will identify, and you don't have to act on it, but you will now know. You'll see the rebuild and downscale opportunities, the resources you're just not using. So now you can reallocate those precious IT dollars. By the way, I know they're precious. I've never yet talked to an IT director who said, oh yeah, our dollars are not precious. These are precious IT dollars. You can reallocate them toward needed resources. In fact, you could put those dollars towards even greater savings by using US Cloud's Microsoft support. That's what a lot of US Cloud customers have done, but you don't have to. Eliminate your unified spend, save money. Seems like a good idea. Sam, the technical operations manager at Bead Gaming, he gave US Cloud 5 stars. He said, and I'm quoting, quote, "We found some things that have been running for 3 years, which no one was checking. These VMs were, I don't know, 10 grand a month, not a massive chunk in the grand scheme of how much we spend on Azure. But once you get to $40,000 or $50,000 a month, it really starts to add up. It's simple. Stop overpaying for Azure, identify and eliminate Azure creep, and boost your performance. And you can do it all in 8 weeks with US Cloud. Visit uscloud.com right now. Book a call. Find out how much your team can save. The best support, US-based team, smart engineers, twice as fast, half as much. uscloud.com. It's a no-brainer. Book a call today. Get faster Microsoft support for less. uscloud.com. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. That's the kind of support I appreciate. All right, now let's see. We did the Windows 11 hilarity. Is there more Microsoft news, or should we just go home?
There is more.
Oh,
I did do a quick summary of our show notes. It just took a bulleted list and made a shorter bulleted list, so that's not particularly interesting.
No, you have to ask it like to go out and check all the news sources.
Yeah.
And say, here, I'll do it with Perplexity, because Perplexity is connected to today's internet.
To the
right?
internet and whatnot.
To the internet.
Okay.
I'll just see what we get here.
In the meantime, Richard,
Yes,
I'm curious if you have heard anything about this. So this is the type of thing that looks on the surface like it's nothing, almost, right? So short letter to employees from Satya Nadella that they republished on their website. He has created a new Office of Strategy and Transformation. This will be led by Kathleen Hogan, who was previously Microsoft's Chief People Officer and Head of HR, which I kind of hate that title, but whatever. She will be responsible for defining Microsoft's overarching corporate strategy and structure and lead its continuous transformation as a company. So the reason this is weird to me is I feel like Microsoft, especially under Satya Nadella, has always been like a thing, right? So in the beginning, they were the cloud company, right? And we know that he did that thing like from Office Space where he basically went to everybody and said, what is it you do here? And wanted to make sure that they could justify their existence as a business, but also that they could fit within this strategy. This, we're going to be a cloud company, right? And obviously the past 2 years-ish, whatever it's been, they've shifted the focus sideways a little bit, and now they're an AI company, which is related to the cloud, obviously. So, again, we go around the company, got to make sure everything makes sense. You're doing AI, right? You're doing AI? Oh, you're doing AI? Good. You can stay. You're doing AI. It's why we have Copilot.
There's been plenty of messages coming out saying if you don't have AI in your role somewhere, you're not long for this company.
Yep. So I feel like this might be a formal move to almost protect them against some future layoffs or whatever, where they say, hey, sorry, you guys didn't have anything to do with AI.
You read the right cue. It's the head of HR that's leading this group. Why do you think that is?
That's right. So the former head of HR, essentially, who is now in charge of Microsoft's strategy and transformation and a formal accounting of what that means. This was presented as nothing. And the more I look at it, the more I kind of, I guess you have to read between the lines there. It's like, this might
you don't get to be a project lead on something reporting directly to SLT if it isn't important.
reporting directly to Nadella in this case, by the way. But yes,
the senior leadership team.
Yeah, but she's part of she's now part of that too. So I don't know. This thing is possibly as short as 300 words long. There's not much to it. A lot of it has to do with the woman who is replacing her as the new head of HR. Yeah. And a lot of it is just about that woman, whose name I've already forgotten, Kathleen Hogan, and her history at Microsoft and before, and why, and there's this kind of vibe to it, like we hired her for this, but actually we think she's going to be awesome at this. So I've been talking to her about it, and she's on board, and now we're doing it, and I guess she's going to formally. I mean, it used to be simple. It's like we would like to see a computer on every desk. Yeah. And then we would like that to be running Microsoft software. And then when that became quaint, we moved on to whatever else. But I feel like I think we might be formulating a new
mission statement. That's a mission statement.
Yeah.
Well, we've already seen plenty of evidence of it. Pre-pandemic, and even you'd have to even go a little bit further back than that. 4 decades, getting a job at Microsoft was that life kind of job, right? 2/3 of that company employed by people who literally interned from university, and then this was the only job they had, both MBAs and ComSci grads. The other third being from industry. Right. And even before the pandemic, but the pandemic was certainly an accelerator, as there was a pressure happening. There were fights between the workforce and the leadership, right? The Google walkouts, even Microsoft employees protesting, movements toward unionization, like generally a sense of we're not all in this all together. The corporation's becoming more corporate. The people are needing to defend themselves from the corporation. Then the pandemic. Yep. And now we're coming out the other side of it. And you're right, you got the AI wave. I think they're rethinking employment strategy as a whole.
I think so. That's interesting.
And this is not this is only slightly a signal to the employees. This is mostly a signal to shareholders.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
That's why it's a press release.
Yeah. It's a very curious. I have not been this confused by something this simple for so long. I can't even remember the last one of these, but I read it and I thought there's something else going on. And actually, Laurent, the guy, he said, could you look at this? Like, is there a reading between the lines version of this story? And I'm like, I think that's all it is.
Yeah,
I think that's
all it is, actually.
Yeah.
Is that they're formalizing the way they're going to think about careers at Microsoft going forward.
So Leo has created his AI replacement for me, which is
there you go.
Yeah, it's not as good as you. I got to tell you.
It will get there. It will get there.
I mean, it's pretty good. It said weirdly, based on the search result. So the prompt was, I'm hosting a podcast about Microsoft this morning. Please prepare a rundown for me with the most important stories from this week. Yep. Put the items in a bulleted list. Aim for a 2-hour show. It said, based on the search results, there aren't any specific stories from the March 12th through 19th time frame.
I was going to say,
weird.
The first 2 are from last week.
Yeah, I can provide you with most recent news from March. It would be relevant. Patch Tuesday. They didn't mention the Copilot thing.
No, they probably didn't know about it yet. I know it's supposed to be up to date, but yeah, you would think that would have been something they melded together.
Most of this is older.
Yep.
This is, I think, why you want a human, because there's more. A human's going to give you personality more in the choice.
There's also index.
Yeah, it's also a bias issue, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, there's a bias to it. There's you could call it an opinion that, there's a whole range of stuff we could talk about. And, I have my little.
You make choices. You're making choices.
Yeah, I have my little focus. And, sometimes, because we've had weeks even when you said, oh, I'm surprised this wasn't there or wasn't the top story, whatever it might be. And it's like, yeah, that's part of that bias, for lack of a better term. I don't know. There is, the FTC thing. That's actually the next thing we'll talk about. Outlook drag and drop fix. This is making me realize how incredibly boring this world is. Jeez. It's brutal.
So Anthony points out that I don't do it for this show, but I normally go through the week's news constantly and put together a bookmark list for other shows. I could if I were doing that, I could say, hey, pull from this list of stories and put something together, but then I'm still doing all the work. I don't want to do any work.
I feel like you should be able to point an RSS feed at it and say, grab the stories from the past, whatever, 7 days.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would do because I have my Raindrop RSS feed of all the stories that I have said were
this
interesting.
is like we're right on the cusp.
We're so close.
A bunch of overlapping bits of AI functionality that like we sometimes will describe as grounding, but sometimes it's really just like I'm pointing you at a thing and it's like, so summarize this or whatever that thing is. That could be several documents. It could be a folder full of documents. It could be whatever it is. And it's kind of what I've from the beginning, I think for the one spark that went off in my dim brain when this started happening was I want to be able to point this thing at my archives and have it ask it questions and say, yes, on August, whatever, 2020 or 2003, a million years ago, you wrote about blah, 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 and this thing, and then have links where you can go find those original documents, right? Like I want this so badly.
Yeah.
I have done absolutely nothing to make that happen.
Don't get too excited because the next step is to feed it to Notebook LM and have it create a podcast with
in our voices,
genial hosts that sound a lot like Paul and Richard.
Oh yeah,
I know. No, it's scary.
I mean, those bots already sound a lot like me.
Yeah.
Listen,
Anthony Nielsen says Feedly has an AI component that you could build.
Okay.
And so you could take your Feedly and then, yeah.
Yes, you can take your Feedly, Leo.
You can take it. I tell you what,
you know what I mean. You can do what you want to do with it. No,
got your Feedly here.
Honestly, I'm not worried about being replaced by AI.
Yeah, but the reason is we're all in our mid to late 50s or older. We're done.
If I were 25,
we're done. If the lightning struck today and they're like, guys, you're out, we'd be like, you know what? I had a good run. Whatever.
Yeah, that's why I worry about our kids because they're growing up in this world where it really is kind of uncertain.
I know. It's incredible.
And there's
unless you're using an
$5
iPhone, and then you're still back in 2007. You're fine.
Yeah.
Apparently my brown liquor corner will be safe. That's I think the consensus. Yeah.
Somebody's going to have to taste it and tell the AI what it tastes like.
Yep. Soon there'll just be a little taste strip thing that will come out of the computer.
The big thing this year in AI is going to be, and Jensen Huang was talking about it on at his GTC keynote yesterday. It's going to be robots because AI needs to get real world experience. It has to have experience.
Plus they have to build the army that can defeat us. So
that too.
That's going to be easy.
So everybody, Jensen invited a robot onto the stage with him. It was very cute.
Was it? Sam Altman, you mean?
No,
no, I'm just kidding. Sorry,
Hello, Jensen.
I am a human. Why do you doubt
$70 billion funding?
Everyone stands like this. This is normal.
Now, have you seen the new Boston Dynamics Atlas, the next generation one? That's self-contained and can break dance?
Yeah.
This is in the next 10 years. What we're going to see is, AI moving out into the world, which maybe there is reason to be a little worried. I don't know. Don't arm them, please.
No, the U.S. military has made it perfectly clear they're ready for armed AI.
It's too late.
Yeah.
In some ways, if soldiers, all the soldiers were AI fighting other AI, then and no human was getting killed in the matter, then that would be great. Then you could have kind of proxy war, and then we wouldn't have to kill people. That would be okay. But I don't know if the robots would go for that. Why is he crawling on his?
I don't know, but I find it vaguely irritating how agile this thing is because I can tell you right now, if I got up and walked toward the bathroom, I would bump into something on the way, with the wall, the door frame, do something,
Oh my God! I just did a somersault. We're watching the Boston Dynamics.
Did a shoulder roll.
This is, by the way, owned by Google. This is part of DeepMind. So even the name DeepMind's a little terrifying. Shoot!
Now you're just showing off.
He just did that.
Then his head swivels around, and he's like,
now he's doing break dancing.
He's like, why didn't anyone tell me my ass was so big?
Look at
oh boy,
that's
robots that cartwheel.
Terrifying. Cartwheeling robots.
Yep. Crazy. All right, I have lost track. So, all right, no. I'm not sorry. That was not a complaint. That's just a general complaint about my brain. That's fine. We're doing good.
Yep.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a change in presidential administration a couple of months ago, and I know it hasn't really been big in the news, but because just transfer of power here is always so great. There's been
they got rid of your enemy, Lena Khan.
Except oddly, the new FTC is pretty much going forward with a lot of her investigations, including the one, apparently, this is a report, multiple publications, Bloomberg, Financial Times, New York Times. They're going to go ahead with a Microsoft investigation, which to me, when I say the Microsoft investigation, this is actually several different things. It's their licensing practices in cloud computing, which has been a big concern in Europe, especially, as everybody probably knows. It's work with AI, but not exclusively, but also including how it trains models, meaning does it steal that data, which, yes, of course. Its partnership with OpenAI, which we all kind of understand was specially formulated to avoid regulation, right? So yeah, there is an element to our government, which is kind of,
they don't like big tech any more than in the previous administration.
Because in their viewpoint, this big tech has been silencing their viewpoint, I guess, or something to that effect. So anyway,
how's that been working out for big tech?
I think it's so much better when we know what they think. So that's been working out great. Like, now it makes sense to me, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't really understand what you were doing, but now it makes sense. It's something I would never say without.
I just want to say, Richard, I love Canada. I don't want it to become the 51st state. I want your sovereignty to be preserved. I joked on a couple of episodes ago about the 51st state. And I got I didn't realize how sensitive the subject is in the Great White North. I got a hateful email from somebody who says, I'm canceling all my subscriptions, my club membership.
Yep,
how dare you call us the 51st state? And I was being facetious.
I got something like that as well. I like when people feel the need to tell you this stuff.
I just want to say I love Canada.
I appreciate that. I've had a few people, Americans, contact me saying, "You don't hate me, do you?" And I was like, "Listen, I don't blame victims."
We met two people over the
Thank you, Richard.
Two people of the weekend who felt the need to say, "We're from Canada. We don't hate you."
Oh, thank you.
But we have hatred for it.
What's it? Yeah, we don't want to be a 51st state, and we don't want to be in a trade war with you.
I don't want to. I had a guy who owned a restaurant tell me that they only bought Canadian coffee. And I said, I'm not even sure.
Canada doesn't grow any coffee.
I was like, I don't think Canada makes coffee, but listen, that's fine. I'm sure it's not a scam.
I get my Kenyan coffee through Canada. How about that?
Yep.
There you go.
So yeah, it was bizarre this weekend how often this came up. But anyway, so yeah, Canada's great. I think we can all agree to that. Mexico's not too shabby.
I love Mexico too.
Basically, most of North America is pretty good.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Not crazy about Venezuela, but that's not, the poor Venezuelan
North America. North America specifically. So yeah, anyway, so the FTC is going to move forward with this apparently, and that's actually really interesting to me. So, and honestly, not entirely unexpected, although. Yeah, I think anything that Lena Khan touched, I could see them distancing themselves from maybe, but apparently not. And then this just came out today, and I don't think it's universal yet, but apparently Microsoft is no longer going to sell Surface computers with a power adapter in the box in the EU, starting with the tablets, Surface Pro, et cetera, and then moving to the laptops in 2026. And it depends on where you're looking.
That are USB-C, right?
Well, no. So these Surface devices all come with like a proprietary charger. So the way it works is you could unplug it and put a USB-C cable, then charge on the USB-C port on the computer. But they come with that little fin, the Surface Connect fin,
pop-off one.
Yeah. So
that's weird.
It is weird.
But they're going to ship that cable. You just have to put it into your own adapter, right? I
don't think they're going to ship the cable either, because the cable is actually kind of pointless without the adapter. So no, the assumption here is that most people have a USB-C cable and charger. It will work. I found that even kind of lower power phone chargers actually can charge computers pretty well now, or at least can charge them to some degree, slowly, maybe if they're smaller or lower wattage or whatever. But the nice thing about the Surface Connect port even today is sort of like the nice thing about the what's the Apple thing called, the magnetic charger,
MagSafe.
MagSafe is it frees up the ports that you have for whatever, for hard drives, mice, whatever it might be. So you have this proprietary thing, which isn't great. If you forget to bring it, it's fine, because everyone has a USB-C charger. But if you have it, you're freed up the whatever number of ports you might have on that computer. So I guess the theory here is everyone has USB-C now, so maybe you don't need it. Plus, I think these things are getting more expensive, so they're not lowering the price. I can tell you that. So, they're
if you're not going to use it. You're just going to toss it away. Like I get that idea.
That's exactly what I did with when I bought the MacBook Air. I threw that thing in a drawer. I haven't looked at it since because I'm never going to use the stupid Apple thing. It looks like a Fisher Price toy from the 1970s. I don't know what the point of it is, but so it's kind of a weird one. I don't know. Oh, and I'm sorry. The one thing I left out was the stated reason for this was to meet the needs in the EU to not have waste, like to reduce e-waste.
Okay.
And not to save money. Just we're doing this for you. It's not for us. It's for you.
Well, they just don't have to lower the price, right? Then they're not saving anybody any money.
I don't think they're doing that. So
just means you'll have to order it separately, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I tend to order a second power supply anyway because we'll leave one in my bag and one at my desk.
Of course. Yes. Yes. You are a sophisticated traveler. You've done this before. That makes I do. I do the same thing.
Forget my power supply by having more of them.
Yep. Although again, but the nice thing about USB-C is you could bring like a thing that works with everything, and it's kind of cool. Like there's something to that. So if you don't need the expansion, then I pretty much don't. I mean,
as long
very
as you
rarely.
trust USB-C PD, right? Like I'd have to.
Is there a reason not to?
Well, because the different implementations there.
So I stick with something that is going to work great, like an Anchor product or whatever, and you should be okay. I mean, but yes, fair enough. I mean,
yeah, I have an Anchor charger with like 5 USB-C ports and 100 watt, delivery.
No, that stuff's great
for my laptop, and that's all I need to bring. It's perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Perfection itself.
And that's I think that's it.
Is another ad? Time for another ad?
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
I'm super eager.
There was just nothing to talk about this week.
Is
that it? No?
Dear Copilot, can you make up some news?
All right. Well, we still have more AI conversation to come. We're not done with that. We're going to, of course, do the world famous Xbox segment. Back of the book has some picks and tips and run as radio and, of course, a brown liquor pick. I'm going to ask you, my brother-in-law came over. So we ordered what was supposedly a snap together wine rack. Big, 6 feet by 5 feet or whatever.
Wow.
To hold all our wine. Because we have a nice cool closet we could put it in. And it was not inexpensive, but they said easy, you could snap it together.
I think I bought this myself. It's like a Tinker Toy set with 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Like a
and they give you for some reason drywall screws to hold it together. But I thought that's a little weird.
Well, because you don't want to shake and have the thing go flying off the wall.
So I assembled it. It had a little lean to it.
Oh my!
and I said, Lisa, done. And she came down and said,
She's like, why is there a pile of 7 extra parts over there?
Oh, there were.
Yeah.
Oh, there were a bunch of stuff. She said, let me call Joe, her brother-in-law. Maybe he could come over. Joe is going to come over.
The guy who is a real man.
Let me call a real man in.
Yeah. That
Joe
guy.
comes. Joe's got all the tools. He says, you got an impact screwdriver? I said, no. He said, well, I'm just going to brought mine.
You were like, just throw it out like, is it one of these?
He took a look at it and said, well, you tried.
Nice.
So he reassembles it, and it is rock solid, square, beautiful, right? Great job. Piece of furniture.
Right.
Took him 4 or 5 hours, but anyway. So
I feel like lives to this kind of thing, right? This is his deal.
Oh man, totally affirmed.
If he wanted to know how to filter spam out of his email, he'd have to call you.
Right.
So,
his life choices were fully affirmed. But he likes his Irish whiskey, so I want to get him a nice bottle to thank him. So I'm going to ask Richard to think about that as I do the ad, and maybe in the brown liquor pick. I know you did one, the Castle one.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one, right?
Capano's great.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get him a bottle.
How much do you want to spend on him?
Well, how much is it worth?
I hate to do this, but since you just mentioned this, go to our we go to Taco Bar, right? The guy who invented the Salmoncito cocktail. It's kind of quiet. I talked about this guy I saw who ordered a tequila-based espresso martini, which I thought was crazy. And he says, "What kind of drinks do you like?" And I said, I drink a Manhattan. So what he made for me was a Manhattan made of Jameson, because yesterday or 2 days ago was
Very tasty.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
And Nixta, which is a Mexican corn-based liquor, which is terrible. And turned that into a Manhattan of sorts. And it was curious. It was a little different.
Don't put Mixta in it.
It was a worlds collide kind of a moment.
The mix is pretty sweet, right?
It is sweet, but it's also sweet in kind of a gross way. Like I like corn a lot, and the sweetness of corn, love it. Mm-hmm. And there's something about Nixta that's like the demon spawn of corn taste. It's just terrible.
You should really just stick with the Salmoncita, because that's his trademark drink.
I know.
It's delicious.
I know.
Anyway, you're watching Windows Weekly with a couple of alcoholics. Three, actually.
Sorry, everybody.
Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. We will have more in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsor, Zscaler. This is a company you need to know about for sure. They are the leader in cloud security. See, here's the problem. Enterprises over the years have spent billions of dollars on perimeter defenses, right? Firewalls, in effect. And then, of course, VPNs, so you can get through the firewall and get to work. Has that helped? Has that worked? Well, no. I think breaches are going up like crazy. 18% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks last year. $75 million record payout in 2024. And it's only getting worse. It's because these traditional security tools actually do the opposite of help. They expand your attack surface with public-facing IPs that are exploited by bad actors more easily than ever with AI tools. So, in fact, we had this story on Security Now last week. Bad guys used a VPN to get into a network. And then, of course, once they're inside the network, most networks just assume, well, you're a good guy now because you got in. So they can go everywhere. They're looking around. They couldn't get their malware on anything because there were some protections, except they found a camera that was running Linux, a security camera. It was, an embedded version of Linux. They were able to put the ransomware on that and have it run and encrypt the whole network. Bad guys are bad. The worst thing, of course, is to let them in. But once they get in, even worse, to let them move at will. VPNs, get them in. The firewalls aren't caring about what's inside. So if they've got lateral movement, they can, once they're in, they can connect to everything in the network. They find stuff they want to exfiltrate, like your emails, your customer information. They send that out via encrypted traffic. And of course, the firewall struggles to inspect that encrypted traffic at scale. You got a nightmare. The fact is, hackers are exploiting traditional security infrastructure, and they're doing it now faster than ever because they're using AI. It's time to rethink your security. You cannot let these guys win. Bad guys are innovating and exploiting your defenses faster than ever before. But to the rescue, Zscaler, Zero Trust Plus AI. For one thing, Zscaler hides your attack surface. So the apps and IPs are invisible. You can't attack what you can't see, right? So that's right there, a huge plus. But even if they did get in, lateral movement is eliminated because Zscaler connects users only to specific apps they've been authorized explicitly to use, not the whole network. And Zscaler continuously verifies every request based on identity and context. For you'll love it. It simplifies security management with AI-powered automation. Zscaler is using AI to analyze 500 billion daily transactions to look for those threats that they want to prepare and protect you from. That's where AI can just do some amazing things. But thing to remember, hackers can't attack what they can't see. Protect your organization with Zscaler Zero Trust Plus AI. You can find out more at zscaler.com/security. That's zscaler.com/security. You don't want to be the headline of next week's Security Now. zscaler.com/security.
Maybe I might want to be the headline.
No, you don't. Trust me. That was a wild story. They got into the camera.
Yeah.
They couldn't, there were, I guess, some defenses against some things, but the camera was unprotected. They were able to put their software on, and it was running Linux, which I guess is not unusual for embedded systems.
Well, these days, everything's in ESP32, right? They're so cheap. And they're so powerful. Like once you can, and they almost all come with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. And if you, and the Bluetooth's used for your initial configuration, then you get on the Wi-Fi.
It's exactly what happened. I can't remember the name of the company.
I'll
spare them the embarrassment. I won't mention it, but
this kind of fascinates me because this is something that has come up recently for me, like outside of tech, where it's like the unintended consequence of something. Like you go down this path, you're like, we're going to use Linux on this thing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be super powerful. You can do all the stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then, the problem is it's Linux, which means it's a computer, which means you can write
everything's
a
computer
code on
now.
it.
That's the real thing. My lights are computers I can control by my phone. They've got a processor in them, and they're on Wi-Fi and they have Bluetooth. Our mixers, right, Richard? These wonderful Roadcasters. I'm sure they're running an operating system, likely Linux.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a computer now.
Yeah, that's because it gives you all the functionality for a very low price.
Right. As Steve has said, the S in IoT stands for security.
Nice.
The S. That's good. I just got it. I feel like I'm part of you now. That's good. No, that's good.
Anyway, let's talk about AI. One of the things that is very clear people are doing now with AI is coding. And it's really interesting to watch this.
I have only so this is not in the notes, but since you mentioned this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this app update, right, for this Notepad type app. Tabs, right? I wrote the code. It's not saying it's great, but like I'm managing the document. So as you switch between tabs, you have to manage all these states. Where is the text insertion cursor? Where's the text selection, if any? What is the document? Obviously its name is what save state. It's where it's been edited and needs to be saved. There's all this stuff, But then I have then you do the fit and finish stuff, right? And so I've been using AI for a lot of this, and so I wrote code that worked to use the keyboard shortcut Control+Tab to tab through the tabs in that order. And then you do that first. And of course, you hit the end and it's like, well, how do I get back to the beginning? So I wrote that code too. It was terrible. So I put it to GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio. And I said, could you rewrite this to be more efficient? And instead of the 2-loop nonsense that I wrote, it did a more efficient version, which was clean looking and nice. Single loop, whatever. Nice. So the next stage is, okay, now I got to go in the reverse order. Control-Shift+Tab, right? Goes in the other direction. This one, I'm like, I'm not even going to try to write this. I'm like, AI, you got this. Write this, but go in reverse, right? So GitHub Copilot says, certainly, ! Spits it out, paste it. I'm like, here I go. I'm coding. I'm not even doing anything anymore.
I'm coding.
But when I did Control-Shift+Tab, it went the normal way. Which is weird, the straight instead of backwards, right? Which was weird because I had this loop testing for the two different things, and I was like, why would that be? This took me about 6 hours to debug, and I literally used the debugger in Visual Studio to step through the code to figure out what the heck was happening. And what I discovered was, to my lack of surprise, it was me. I screwed up. The code the AI wrote was perfect. It's the loop that I wrote that was screwed up. And the reason is I was testing for like the keys Control and Tab are being pressed. If they are, do this thing. If Control+Tab or not plus, but if any combination of Control, Tab, and Shift is pressed, do this other thing. The problem is when you press Control, Tab, Shift, you're pressing Control, Tab too. So it always would run the first one.
Right.
So I reversed the loop to test for the 3 keys first, and now it works perfectly. But it was me who screwed up, not AI.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Funny, stupid. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I don't know.
No, well, that's coding. That happens all the time in coding.
Yes. Yeah. And So my lesson was the failable one here is me. And I don't even know. Okay. So I'm going to keep beating the drum on that one because I'm super proud that I was able to write code that makes this stuff work, but then I have AI do it, and it's like, yep, it's better. It's just better every time. It's better.
Well, it's your partner.
Yeah,
you know what they're calling it now? Vibe coding.
I love that.
So
where you write the prompt, you tell the AI the vibe of what you want.
It's a good term, but it assumes, and correctly probably, right, that the person coding doesn't know how to code, right? And
Right.
the point to vibe coding to me would be anyone could do this, right? And the thing I just described was, I know I screwed it. I introduced the problem, but I mean, I do think, at least for now, you need the person there to be like, okay,
I totally do. Yes.
I don't know. Although, again, I am the weakest link. There's no doubt about that. That's what I've learned.
Well, don't start feeling that way, man. We're going to have a problem, you know?
That's I've been married for 35 years, Leo. I get it. It's okay. I'm the unnecessary one. It's fine.
That's funny.
Okay. So a bunch of AI stuff this week. Gemini, this is one of those things I have a hard time keeping up on, but I feel like most of the major AI chatbots, for lack of a better term, have some sort of a feature that is almost always called Canvas or Pages or something like that. And the idea is that you will collaborate with AI on a project, and it's like a space for that, so that and in some cases, I think, is it Copilot or ChatGPT? One of them at least does, I believe, allows other people to be part of it as well, right? Where you can collaborate with people and AI. But the idea is you're working on this project. So they've added this to Gemini. It's not a multi-person thing, but it is a you and AI collaborating together. And then you can, the way Google describes it is when you're ready to collaborate with people, you can bring it out to Google Docs or whatever you're using. Okay. And also audio overview, which is the thing Leo was just talking about. So Google created that thing called Notebook LM, which creates the podcast. If audio recording is like a podcast with 2 AI generated hosts. Very jovial, and you've heard it. It's kind of incredible. And so now you can turn document slides and deep research into an audio overview, which is essentially an audio recording like a podcast, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, this is our world now. This is happening. I don't know what Gemini is free for everyone now. You don't even have to sign in. If you do sign in, if you do pay, obviously get more and more as you go down the list. But
you have a Pixel, right? You bought the new Pixel.
So I do have this Google One, whatever it's called, for a year still. And yes. Yeah. So that's happening. I mean, I don't actually use it a lot, right? Like I don't know. I don't use it at all, really. I mean, I've gone back and forth on the coding thing. Like Anthropic, I use a lot. That Cursor AI editor.
You did use Cursor, that's right. Yeah,
I like that a lot, and that one's good for the whole. Here's my whole project, and it looks at all the code across all the files. It's rather incredible, frankly. But yeah, Gemini, ChatGPT, Anthropic Cloud. Copilot is actually the Siri of this world, in my opinion. But the Siri of AI, if you will. Nice. So yeah, right. But they all, they're all pretty sophisticated. Like I have used Gemini to do code, and it's been in C#, which is Microsoft thing, obviously. But
Claude is kind of the best at this point.
That's my understanding. Yeah. And that
keen on it.
Yeah. So I left out part of my story earlier. It's not super important, but when the first time that the reverse, Control Shift Tab thing didn't work, I said, you know what? I'll just try a different AI, right? So I actually went through Anthropic. It generated whatever it generated. It did exactly the same thing. So I left that out. But that was my go-to. Like when I thought GitHub Copilot was failing me, which it wasn't, I did go to Anthropic. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyhow, so Gemini exploding. They're replacing Google Assistant on Android phones with Gemini. That's been something you could do optionally for several months now, but they're going to make it the permanent one. It's
going to be interesting to see what happens to all the Google hubs that also use Assistant.
Yes. So they're saying over time, they're going to bring Gemini to everything else, right? So smart speakers, smart displays, smart TVs, whatever home devices. But yeah, I think there's going to be a divide between devices that can't do this. I know older Android versions won't be making the switch. I don't know what the break is exactly, but and I don't have this in the or do I? Do I have this in the notes? I don't think I have this in the notes, but there is I guess not. There was a story this week that Amazon is going to cut off the local only access to Alexa on devices, so that everything's going to have to round robin to the cloud now. And yes, I 100% understand why for a certain audience this is a privacy issue and all that kind of stuff, and the reason they did that, et cetera, et cetera. 100%. But I think we're getting to the point where these older Alexa devices are they're like old Sonos equipment.
Alexi.
The Alexi with the double I, or they say it.
AE.
I'm not Russian. I don't know how to say these words, but they're not powerful enough to do this, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. And as they evolve it to this new
But I
thing
mean, for the
that's
most part, they've just been microphones and speakers to a cloud service anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that you're switching the cloud service. What's the difference?
Yep. I feel that for the average Amazon customer, this is not an issue. I mean, they probably never made that switch in the first place, right? It's probably fine, but it is something that's happening.
The Home Assistant folks are in a bit of an uproar, but then the answer is usually stop using Google. Use their local device, local voice devices.
This is a problem.
Solutions.
This is a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
You see this again. I don't have this in the news, but Sonos is still struggling with their thing. Sonos and Google are involved in this legal spat, and so if you have Sonos equipment, you would have spent thousands of dollars on it if you have any amount of it.
It's expensive.
You can't control that stuff from an Android phone as effectively as you can with an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, because it has integrated integration or functionality with AirPlay, et cetera. So, from an iPhone, you can control any number of Sonos speakers easily from any app. And from an Android phone, you can't. I mean, there are some that work like Spotify, but it's not a system thing anymore like it used to be. And this is kind of a problem. And this is a problem for Google too, because you're just describing another problem. This Sonos thing is a problem. Like eventually we get to a point where there are these this is more than two really, but two big smart home infrastructures. And one of them is kind of being left in the dark a little bit, and maybe literally in the dark soon if these things start falling apart. So I don't know. I do know that Gemini does not support today the Hey G, voice activation thing. Yeah. I don't know if there are plans for that or whatever, but
that's probably because they don't want to confuse it with the other devices in your house, right? Anyway, for most general purpose kind of whatever AI chat things we're doing today, Gemini seems like it works great. The home stuff, I don't really. I think if you carry a Pixel 9 as your daily driver, you would use it a lot, I presume.
Okay.
But you don't, right? You're
not right now. You know what though? I'm gonna, before we come home from Mexico, I'm gonna switch back. What happens? Actually,
the Google camera is better, to be honest.
It is better. And we had a day out, we were going to be out all day. And I'm like, I'm just going to bring both cameras, both phones. And as soon as I started taking photos with the Pixel, I was like, oh God.
It's so nice, isn't it?
It's so perfect. Yeah. I spent a lot of time tinkering to get a good shot with an iPhone. The Pixel, you just like, it's just like, it just does it like it's awesome.
She must be obeyed is being switched over to the 9 Pro. And she grabbed a brilliant photo of the lunar eclipse, which not an easy picture to pull off, and the phone did the work, thing. Right?
Yeah. No, it's really good.
And then see, because Siri's so stupid, that's the thing. You kind of get used to not using your assistant on an iPhone. But I imagine, I don't know. I have my 9. I should maybe do the same thing. Switch over and try it. I mentioned this notion of you one walking around with talking to an AI as if they were. I'm holding my hand here like I have a phone in it, but you'd probably just use earbuds or whatever. You're not going to hold the thing in front of you, but you're walking around and you're saying, "Okay, whatever it is, ChatGPT, whatever. I'm going to throw some ideas by you. I want you to take note of all this stuff. Don't interrupt. I'll ask you questions if I have them. But the idea is whatever you're brainstorming. Sometimes you must have done. You do this sometimes just by yourself, right? You walk. Sometimes you say something out loud just to kind of help you think or whatever.
Yeah, and multiple personality disorder.
Yes. It's
or Bluetooth, one or the other.
Yes, it's the least of my problems. Really. Yeah, I could do both. It's fine. I have Bluetooth and it's not connected to anything, but I'm still talking to myself. I'd like to try that. And I do feel like this is not going to happen on my iPhone unless I use like ChatGPT or something like the series.
Well, that's what I do. I use the action button with Perplexity, which is again, and I can talk to it, and it does. You kind of feel like an idiot when you do it, but
right, that's my thing.
But I mean, we felt like idiots using Bluetooth headsets for a while. Like,
I know.
Who's that crazy person walking down the street?
I used to make fun of people for this. I used to know a guy from the gym. I'm like, is someone calling you from the Matrix? What are you doing over there?
Just to kind of catch up on what 2013 thought AI would be. I rewatched Her a couple of nights ago.
Oh, yes.
It's old. It's an old movie.
But a lot of what we're getting there. And he has, he's always wearing the little earpiece. Yeah. He's got ScarJo in there. But there is a scene where everybody in the subway is talking to their AI,
to their things. Yeah, exactly.
And so
no, we create new social norms as necessary. It's like, we all argued that nobody will wear the Google Glass or any of those sorts of things.
Right.
Like, listen, once upon a time, walking around with your phone out was not appropriate either. As soon as it's good enough,
now we
will change.
I've been with people who've
all the
walked into
time.
polls looking at their phones.
Or taxi cabs.
Yeah.
See, that'll be the great thing about the visor. It'll see the poll coming because you won.
That's right. That's a good point.
Do you think it's weird when people talk to you on their phone? Like, is it
it's a
socially
walkie-talkie?
acceptable now?
Oh, to hold it to your face?
Yeah. He's asking
it's
the
not
software.
weird at all. Talking to voice assistants on phones has become quite common and socially acceptable. Many people find it convenient for tasks
Sounds like
setting
ScarJo.
What's not
reminders,
socially
sending
acceptable
messages,
is talking to
or getting
people.
information on the go.
It's amazing.
Okay, because I don't want people to think I'm crazy or anything.
I think we're used to it.
No
I mean, we're
worries
used
at
to
all.
people talking into
Using
the air.
voice assistants is widely accepted.
What a lie! You're lying.
Yeah.
Who told you that? Was it a voice
Might have a
assistant? That's amazing.
No,
it's funny you
don't
talk about
look
the
In fact,
crazy.
I think it's a premium experience that people should pay for. Don't you agree? I do agree.
That's one
Look at
voice.
the,
I have also, I'm wearing this little bee thing that I have all around, and I can also talk to it.
Yeah.
Hey, is it crazy that I talk to you sometimes when I'm walking down the street or on the bus? Is that nuts? His voice is better. I have him as J.K. Simmons, so
Nice.
he's a little slower though.
Not at all. Talking to a voice assistant while you're out and about is becoming quite common and socially acceptable. Many people find it convenient for tasks and information on the go. It's just a modern way of interacting with technology.
Isn't
Dirt bag.
I love it that he sounds like a kind of a nicer J.K. Simmons.
I would like
awfully
to be berated when I talk
Yes.
to AI. I think
You
that's
can.
gonna
You
be-
can tell it.
Yeah.
Treat me
Absolutely add
poorly.
that to the
I
prompt.
think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I need a little like a virtual smack to the face. Maybe.
Oh, wait a
real
minute.
one.
I just got a message from Skype. Options trading. Don't wait. Shop now before it's
There
too
you go.
late. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Your friends are on Skype and they want you to trade options.
Hey, we're about to fall off a cliff. Would you like to hold hands?
This came yesterday. So obviously, whoever's doing this hasn't really gotten to the fact that Skype is.
Well, they're getting it in. They're getting their
Get
licks
it in
while
now.
they
I
can,
still
you know?
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not options. Sorry. It's Bitcoin.
Of course it is.
You say if I do have Skype on this,
It's
so let's.
Bitcoin.
I guarantee you, I have spam sitting in here waiting for me.
You know you
So
do.
depressing.
You know you
So
do.
sad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hijack the.
No, but
the,
now I
the
want to say
program.
no,
Yeah.
it's not.
Oh, yeah.
I do have two. I have two messages in here from that non-human beings. That's fantastic. Okay.
We have been trying. On some of our shows we use Zoom,
right.
and I thought maybe we should turn on the AI
Yeah.
and let it. I don't know.
Do something.
So
Let it
actually,
listen.
so based on their look, anyone could talk the talk here. The stuff they're doing with their Zoom AI companion this year actually does look interesting.
Have you used it?
No, like everyone else, I've not used it. To use this, you have to pay for Zoom. So,
Oh well, see, we have a paid account.
yes,
yeah,
no,
me too.
and of course people do, but I don't. So I've not tried it. But they're basically this. They're doing their kind of Zoom centric push for AI and whatever, and the integration with whatever outside calendar and whatever you might be using, but. This reads a little bit like what Meta tried to do briefly, what Amazon tried to do briefly, where it's like, we have Zoom tasks, we have Zoom chat, we have Zoom whiteboard, we have Zoom Drive. We
saw
have,
this a while ago. They decided they needed to be a platform, that just being good at voice and audio communications was not sufficient. And
no
now
one
they're
wants to be
loading stuff
plumbing.
on that.
They want to, yeah. And
And if you don't have AI in the name now, you're doomed.
I just wish more people wanted to be plumbers because it's really
me too.
hard.
Exactly.
Pays well. When I do those high school talks, I'm very clear on
I
Get a skill.
practically-
electricians, plumbers. You're going
practically
to do
begged.
very well.
I'm still
So-
looking- Okay, never mind.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. When Zoom first launched this product, this service, it was actually called Zoom IQ, which is a terrible name, right? So now it's Zoom AI Companion, and everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, I get it."
Okay,
I get it.
now
understand.
I know why to turn it off.
Yes, but yeah, I don't get to see it, so it's fine. I'm not going to.
I'll turn it on.
So it's agentic. That means it can go
work
out
on your behalf in some cases.
do
Yeah. A
stuff.
lot of it is just
That's a little scary, this agentic stuff.
yeah.
Have
Well-
you used it at all in anything in your browser or anywhere?
Something agentic.
Yeah.
No, not really. No,
I'm waiting to. I don't.
Like angelic, only different.
Well, the theory is that
More
you have an
demonic.
agentic browser.
Yeah, a
and
service,
it will
whatever it is.
Go out
like
and book restaurants for
the canonical
you.
example is we go to Mexico all the time. We use a service to watch the cost of those flights. It's not agentic. It's not AI. It's not anything. It's probably some guy in his basement. It doesn't matter. But it could be. Well, but you could kind of
Used to
take
be
the
the
next
Mechanical Turk used to be real people, right?
step. Yeah. You could say, look, we're going to go. We want to go for 4 weeks in June, July, August. Doesn't matter when. If the price goes below a certain point, if it's nonstop, you can get us business. Whatever your criteria is, do it. Just do it. Book the flight.
Right.
I mean, the interim.
As long as you
steps-
trusted it,
Well, that's the yes.
and it
There's
didn't book a flight to Timbuktu instead of the
There's-
flight you wanted. And
But the flight's a great example because you always have 24 hours to cancel. So
Right.
as long as you're paying attention, the moment it books,
Pay
it's just to lock
attention.
the price
Yeah.
in.
Well, you also
You get that
have
message.
you could also have the interim step because a lot of times those things will come back to you and prompt you
Yeah.
or whatever.
Hold the ticket for $20.
Well, I found it. Do you want to book it? Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to use your default credit card? Yep. Yep. You can
It's
kind
just-
of do that.
it's just
I
like
know.
getting in a Waymo. It takes you have to do it a few times before you go. Oh, I guess okay. I'm going to be safe in this car.
Yes. First of all, we can get used to anything. This is
Right.
we know
It's
this.
human. That's human.
25, 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. I don't remember, whatever it was, a long time ago. In the house that I eventually bought from my not stepmother, but my father I helped him buy a computer from Dell online. We configured it, whatever he got at the time. And then it came time to pay. And he said, I'm not putting my credit card in this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, let me ask you a question. You go to restaurants a lot. You give people credit cards and they walk out back with it? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. So you're okay doing that. But one of the world's biggest PC makers, you're nervous about giving them your credit card. You think they're going to do something with your credit card. It was just kind of, you know what I mean? So
I used to
at
spend
the
a lot of time on the radio show reassuring people it was okay to use a credit card online. It's actually safer. And I used the same example you did. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. But I mean, today I'm sure he's
Everybody does.
ordering Starbucks like an idiot
Actually-
on his phone. I don't,
I have relatives who still don't have an ATM card. They don't trust
that's amazing.
yeah. Oh boy, in our Discord chat says the Zoom AI stuff has been really impressive. Just got done with a 3-day virtual conference where it was extremely helpful. This makes sense, if you're using Zoom to go to attend an event.
Yeah.
Especially for those that weren't paying attention, they can question the AI summary and get the info instead of interrupting the meeting. That's a good point. Yeah.
There's always that one guy who's like, yeah, but does it work with X? And it's like, we just talked.
It's always that guy, isn't it? We just covered that.
I think, and that's where AI shines, right? The whole summary thing, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Speaking of losing my mind, So Meta they're going the open source route on AI models. Their Llama models have now had over 1 billion downloads, which is crazy.
Nice.
It's a great differentiator, and good on them for doing that.
Yep. By the way, are either of you reading this book, this Meta book or whatever?
I bought it as soon as I saw that the folks at Meta were trying to suppress it.
Me too. Same.
I ran to Amazon and I ordered it.
I read more industry
great.
books than probably anybody.
Are you enjoying it? Have you read it yet?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to get through it. It's hard because
It's a little sleazy.
Well, yeah. So the woman who wrote this had tried for a couple of years, I think, to get a job there because she was like, you guys need a diplomat basically to deal with governments. You're going to be regulated, which was correct, but super boring and not technical, not technology related. And then some of the stories are crazy. There's a story about a group from the German government comes across these guys early on. We're like, look, we've done the whole eavesdropping thing. We're not open to this. And everything went wrong. Like they're in one of those kind of modern offices with exposed plumbing and everything. And they're like, why is this unfinished? What are you guys doing? And it's like, oh, it's like our company. It's like 1% done. They're like, okay, but why don't you just finish it? And they're like, no, we want it to look like this. And it's like, it used to be a normal office. We actually stripped the stuff off the walls.
They did that. They did that in their Silicon Valley headquarters.
Yeah. And they're like, you had a working office and you got rid of this stuff. And then so the woman's like, can we just start the meeting? So she starts the meeting and she goes, this is who I am. This is my job. And she goes, oh, I'm Jewish, by the way. And they're like, what? And she's like, oh, I didn't say that because of the Holocaust or anything. And we're like, what? What?
What?
So the stories are insane like that, but they're not really about technology.
No, it's not. It's not, Pascal Zachary or anything.
No, it's not even
more
close.
like it's spilling the tea. It's a gossip book.
It's a little, it's not my kind of thing.
It is my kind
and now
of thing.
they've Streisand it. So of course it's just bestseller.
That's the funniest thing. I wouldn't have bought it.
What did you think was going to happen?
I wouldn't have bought it either.
I was like, who cares?
Shut it down.
Yeah, I was like, who cares what Facebook has ever done? And then that happened. I was like, okay, I care. Like, now I'm going to read it.
Here's my $10.
Yeah, that is why I bought it. Anyway, I feel dirty.
It's called Careless People, a cautionary tale of power, greed, and lost idealism.
Careless people is a good term. This reminds me of the Succession thing.
Very much.
The guy doesn't trust any of his kids, and they're like, "What? What's the problem?" Where he's like, "You aren't serious people.
You're not serious people."
And I was like, "Yes, that's."
So the epigram
perfect.
at the beginning is from The Great Gatsby. They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess they had made.
That was an autobiographical part in there from
perfect.
F. Scott.
That's perfect.
Yep.
I don't know. It's my kind of book, but it's like reading People magazine. It's not a tech book.
I'm struggling to get through it, but the stories are crazy. I mean, they're crazy. Like that's
what's interesting. Is this is why I like Succession. I kind of enjoy seeing into the life of these people that is so different from the life I lead.
Right.
Rich people have a different experience.
It is a work of fiction, obviously, or in a fictionalization.
Well, that's what we don't know is did she make it up or not? I mean,
he means Succession.
No, Succession.
Yeah.
There's a certain, you read the Murdoch drama that's going on with him and his family. There's a certain amount of
what does this sound like?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, we shouldn't talk about it. It's not for us. It's not serious.
It's not for us. It's for unserious people.
There is that concept of the unserious people. Like that's
well, it's not a concept anymore. They're running our government. Okay. Sorry.
Well, your government.
It's not ours. It's Elon's now.
Remember when it used to be for the people, but it's okay.
Bought it.
So yes, and then not related to anything really, but Microsoft just shipped .NET 10 Preview 2, and unlike the first preview, which seems like it was rushed out the door very quickly with not much in it, there's a bunch going on here. So depending on what part of .NET you care about, including the thing I care about, which is WPF, there's some stuff going on there, right? And so nothing that would cause me to start looking at it yet, or to think about requiring it or something for the app I'm working on. But in addition to all the performance stuff you would expect, there's C# language stuff, SDK stuff, ASP.NET Core, Blazor, Maui, WPF WinForms, etc. So this,
I love it when you
the
speak
bits start
French.
to come together. Like,
yeah, it's starting to come together. I think that this feels like what would have been the first one if they had been ready for it. This is like the real first preview.
But you complained that they were late, so they put out the preview one early.
It's Paul's fault.
Clearly, it's
I would like to think that I had that kind of a pull, but I don't. So I wasn't the only one. Oh, I noticed. I would say complained is a strong word, but no, I complained. You're right. But
I'm pretty sure I went to the effort of actually looking.
No,
it
it meets
up, right?
it meets the bar of a complaint. No, you're correct. That's fine. That's fine.
Well,
When
I
is
think you
a
sort of
complaint
preface it with this, am I crazy or is this, have they not done this? And I'm like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah, I was like, doesn't this always happen by now?
It does. And it happened a week earlier, a week later, and it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
Well, I'm paying attention.
I'm working on my fall show right now, starting to do content planning around that and recognizing, hey, that's a month before ship date for .NET Conf, and that means these guys are going to be busy. They're going to be in the middle of release candidate too. Like you can sort of plan around that.
That's right. Hopefully by then it's
that was probably more of a spur than Paul's complaints, right? I mean, .NET Conf.
I don't think anyone. No, in fact, I know they're not listening to me because 2 or 3 days before Christmas, I wrote the guy who was responsible for WPF to find out where he had allegedly fixed a bug and how I could find out how to get it. And he wrote me back in March. So I don't think I'm on the, I don't think I'm at the top of the list.
At least he wrote you back. You would have ignored me.
I don't even know why he did at that point. I just sent me a middle finger would have been more appropriate at that point. I don't know. It was very strange.
Well, here's one thing we all know Paul cares an awful lot about. The Xbox segment coming up in just a little bit. You're watching Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott at Thurrott.com and Richard Campbell. He is a little bit into .NET, the host of .NET Rocks.
A little bit.
And Run His Radio, runhisradio.com. I didn't realize, I forgot, I guess, that Carl Franklin did the theme music for this show.
For your show?
No, for Windows Weekly.
Oh, yeah.
Am I wrong?
No.
I feel like I saw that somewhere. Maybe an AI told me.
It's possible.
Well, what was the guy's name who did it originally? He played the guitar.
Yeah,
and,
George. Yeah.
I remember Jim
It was
Alston
a
had
rock.
come out-
It was a rock thing.
Well,
Kevin, do you know who wrote the music for the?
I had said at one point, like, oh, maybe we should get Jim Alston to the music because he had put out an album with a couple of kind of rocky,
No,
songs.
Carl did.
And that guy, the original guy, got really upset.
Did he?
Because we put the wig on. He's like, I could sound like Eddie Van Halen too. And he did like the little he
he's
did this
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
was it George Wood? Who was it? No, it wasn't George Wood. He was good though. Then. So Carl, does Carl play an instrument?
Yes, he
Carl
does.
is an accomplished guitar player. Yeah.
But did he actually?
Well, that's a relief.
I feel like I should know that. How do I not know that he? Is that possible that he wrote this and I don't know? He did.
That? Kevin just confirmed it.
Oh, that's embarrassing. That's terrible.
What about Derek Miller? Do you remember that?
That's it. It was Derek Miller. Wow. I'm
so
impressed.
he's passed away. He passed away sadly.
Did he?
Derek Miller's an old friend of mine.
Is we talking about the same? Has he passed away? Are we talking about the same person?
Died
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes. So before that, obviously he sent a hilarious video where he put on like a wig,
that's very.
And he said, "I can do this too," and it was what he did was
funny.
actually was great. I mean, it was good. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Well, he played in a band of which I'm still friends with many of the folks that were in that band. So
what's that band?
It was just it was university students playing music together.
Nice.
And they don't anymore, but they go.
Is he Canadian?
You've heard of Gordon Lightfoot?
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. That's one of my best jokes of all time. Every time I hear a slow song of any kind, it could be like, could be any group. It doesn't matter. I'll be like, that's my favorite Gordon Lightfoot song. I always, no matter what it is.
And Stephanie laughs at this.
I told you.
Now that's why I got crazy now.
She puts up with me. That's all she does. I get the polite. Oh, you're so funny.
I think you're a hoot, personally.
I do too. That's the problem. I think I'm hilarious.
But that's kind of classic Thurrott humor, which is very dry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know it's a joke, except if you think about it, you're like, what?
Well, someone who knows the music will look at you and be like, are you serious? And like, no, I'm not serious.
I literally listened to the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald the other day.
Nice.
And now Siri only wants to play Gordon Lightfoot music for me.
I love it.
She's so dumb. All right, let's take a break. This is a good time to pause. We will get to the Xbox segment. We got the back of the book still to come. You're watching Windows Weekly, brought to you this hour by 1Password. You know that name, right? But did you know about 1Password's newest product, their Extended Access Management? So let me ask a rhetorical question. Rhetorical because I know the answer. I think you know the answer. Do your end users, the lovely employees at your company, always work on company-provided devices using IT-approved apps, right? They never bring their own phone or laptop in. No, of course they wouldn't. Yes, they would. Always, constantly. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged devices, running all those unmanaged apps? Well, 1Password has an answer, and it's this new Extended Access Management. More than a password manager, 1Password's Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device. It solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. The best way to think of this is imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. You can, you've seen this, the nice brick paths between the buildings and the perfect lawns. Yeah, those paths are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. But they're not the only paths on the quad. No, there's the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the actual straightest line from Econ 101 to History 112. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors. Problem is most security tools, they only work on the happy little brick paths, but many security problems occur on the muddy little shortcuts. The tools, the programs, the hardware people actually use. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that takes all those unmanaged devices and apps and identities and puts them under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected. That's what, we've known 1Password forever for that. They also, though, make sure every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible and, up to date, secure. 1Password is ISO 27001 certified. They get regular third-party audits, so they exceed the standards set by all the major authorities. They're a leader in security. I don't think I need to explain that. Everybody knows them. So this new extended access management, this is security for the way we really work today. It's now generally available to companies that use Okta and Microsoft Entra. It's in beta for Google Workspace customers. Secure every app, every device, every identity, even the unmanaged ones at 1password.com/Windows Weekly. That's all lowercase Windows Weekly. The number 1, PASSWORD.com/Windows Weekly, all lowercase. Check it out today. I think you'll be very impressed. And by the way, thank you, 1Password, for supporting the show. And thank you, dear listeners and viewers, for supporting us. When you use that address, then they know. You saw it here, 1password.com/Windows Weekly. Thank you, 1Password. Okay, Paul, you're on. It's Xbox time.
I have some Xbox stuff this time, too. In fact, the game stuff extends into the back of the book. So, suck it? No. I don't know.
Well, that's a little hostile.
I know. I don't know. I'm sorry. You can take the boy out of Boston. I don't even know where that comes from. Okay. So Microsoft announced a product called Copilot for Gaming, which won't surprise anybody. AI-powered assistant that will help gamers improve their skills, manage their time, which I'll explain, and connect with other people. But the big thing to me really is about getting through hard parts of games, right?
Wow.
And
without a cheat code or a let's play.
Yeah, they've showed stuff like this, so I felt like this was sort of telegraphed. It's still causing outrage in certain circles. It's like, would they just leave this alone? But I have many times in my life been stuck on something particularly hard in a game, and typically you flip out and flip over to maybe you flip out if you're an angry person. Go to a web browser and Google it, right? How many times, if you play games at all, have you done the thing where it's like name of game walkthrough, as a search or whatever, and then just try to find your way out of this situation? So Microsoft has that feature they've added to Edge, which is, technically to the game bar. So a mini version of Edge that sits in the game bar, and you can actually have it running on screen next to the game. So you can be over there trying to, helping you get through stuff. So to me, this just makes sense. It also feels like it's not ready, right? Like this is not there yet. It's something they're going to begin testing soon through the Xbox Insider program. They're going to start on mobile, not on console or PC, which is really interesting to me. And maybe there would be more of a voice-based thing, I guess. Maybe it's just because, no, there aren't fewer games. I don't know why they're doing it that way, but obviously it's coming to PC and console in time. This is apropos of nothing, but is part of this announcement. For some reason, they also felt the need to mention that there are now over 1,000 Xbox Play Anywhere titles. And these are the games that you could buy on Xbox or console, but play across both platforms and move along with all of your progress, achievements, save games, etc. So that's a pretty good milestone, and this is part of their whole backward compatibility pledge. And also meet you where you are kind of a thing, right? And so you may start playing a game on your Xbox, and then you're on your laptop on a plane or whatever. You can kind of go back and forth. And so, cool. Okay. This one's actually really good. So Microsoft's been doing a nice job with their accessibility hardware for not just Xbox, but also Surface PC. And at their Microsoft Ability Summit this past week, they announced the availability of their Xbox Adaptive Joystick, which they announced sometime last year, is now available. It's only $29, $29.99, which is pretty great.
Wow, that's a good price.
And it's a cool. This is just unassailable. It's just really great. So it's cool that they're doing this. They're also letting you do this thing that HP had announced for some of their mice a couple of months, or maybe at CES, I guess, which is they're providing you with the 3D print files for this device.
That's so cool.
So you can customize the top part of it. Is like a top pop-off part. So you can do your own colors, designs, materials, whatever it is. Like,
so
really
cool.
Nice. Yeah, I love stuff like that.
That's really great.
It's a huge month for Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass is the sentence I wish I could have said without laughing. Actually, there are some Blizzard games now coming to Game Pass. So it's a little bit past the middle of the month, but they just announced not that many, honestly, 5 new games. But Atomfall, Blizzard Arcade, Myth Wrecked, Octopath Traveler 2, and Train Sim World 5 are all coming to Game Pass through the end of the month.
I don't know any of these games.
No, me neither. But the Blizzard...
I really liked Octothorpe 1.
The first one,
The story of the hashtag. No, that's something else. Sorry, no.
Then they went off in a different direction.
They really did change.
Yeah, they just kind of lost the script. We could just talk like that. No one would even know because no one knows any. Like the one person out there would be like, "Wait, what?
What? Octothorpe 1? What?
Yeah.
Trains 5 Sim World.
Train. I don't know.
Myth
that implies, of course, is there's 4 previous versions we don't know about either.
That's a good point. It's the 5th in a series,
and we still don't know about it.
Of amazing games. Wow.
There's all these things that to me seem like a good idea, but I've never done and will never do. Right. And I can't explain this, but when I see a train sim, I think to myself, just put this thing up on a screen and have it be like drive
just
from
running
Boston to California or something.
Yeah.
And just have it. But
see the world.
Is it? I've never done it. I don't know. It seems.
I want you all to know there's a Train Sim World 6 coming this year.
Oh yeah, that's why. Of course, you're getting 5
now that they've had the
crap one. Now
they've hit the game. Yeah, the Game Pass dumpster. They can come up with a new version. That's not fair.
It's not fair at all because you should really start with Train Sim World 1 if you're really a serious player. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I think the Simmer.
I'm working my way up to the diesel straddle line at 5. It's it's an amazing vehicle.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That was
it has a forward and backward button.
That was such a nerd alert that I actually got a chilly up my back. It was like, oof. Yikes.
I am an old Railroad Tycoon fan from back in the day, the original. That I think I literally kept a DOS machine running so I could still play it.
So what do you plan the tracks? What do you do?
Oh, it was all of it.
I mean, driving it's not hard, right? You're on a track.
You pretty much just turn it on and walk. You can go to the bathroom.
It was a world builder game, right? You got to build.
I love
between
trains.
cities and stuff.
I love trains. Yeah. But that's like
I like riding in them. I think that's great. Yeah,
I love Star Wars, but I don't dress up like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But you don't own a lightsaber. Yeah, no. I get it.
So when we lived in Macungie at the apartment a couple of years ago, I guess whenever that was,
that's where your lightsabers are.
No, we used to walk by the train tracks, and these kids would be out there with their cameras and their tripods and whatever. And my wife asked one of them one time. She said, "What time's the next? Do you know when the next train's coming?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Yes, it's coming at 11:30."
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
And he explained what the train was, and we were like, "Yikes!" And my wife said, "Oh, do you have an app for that?" And he goes, "No."
I just know. Have you seen Francis Bourgeois?
No.
He's a TikTok personality known for his passion for trains. 3.25 million followers watching him. Trains.
Watching him watch trains, yeah.
He gets so excited when a train goes by. It's hard to.
I've run into, but my wife and I have run into these people all over the country. Like we were up in Wyoming one time and we met a kid like this who was just sitting there rattling off. Like he's like, oh, that's the wrong kind of card I have. And like he knew everything about everything. And it was like, shoot. I mean, I don't know, maybe go on a date or something. Anyway, whatever. We all live our lives however we choose. It's fine.
Here's a little just video of Francis. He's so excited about the
super
train
excited.
Coming. He likes to wave and see the camera he's wearing in front of his face.
Oh, he is. He is a young Robert Scoble is what he is.
He's very excited. But you know what? His enthusiasm is catching. It's like he's really he gets very excited. Oh, here he comes. Oh, look at that. Oh man, what a train.
That's awesome.
That is actually an awesome train, by the way.
Francis Bourgeois is his name. This is a YouTube channel.
I'm surprised I've not heard of this guy. I actually do watch a lot of train videos on YouTube.
Oh, he bought a train.
Of course he did.
He just bought
as you do.
He's like, here's my train. I'm pulling into my house.
Train. I own this train. This is my train.
This is my train.
Yeah. Yep. Look at that train. It's an amazing train.
You know, you can geek out on anything you want.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about today's new media is it's people who are passionate about
and they can
things.
Find their thing, right? Like
the problem is they're passionate about misinformation. They're passionate about Anyway. Okay. So what else we got? This is actually pretty good. So one of the few reasonable complaints about these Snapdragon X based computers is that they're not good for games. And they're not good for games because that really wasn't the focus. They were obviously for V1, they were trying to nail the performance issue for a thin and light laptop type computer, meet what you see on Intel x86, whatever. And they did great on that. But they also made the mistake Qualcomm did of heavily promoting the game playing stuff, which is actually pretty terrible. And I don't know why they did that, but one of the fundamental issues, there's two fundamental issues. One is that you're not seeing games that are written natively. No one is porting their games to ARM, so you have to emulate that, and so you got to figure that out. And that's kind of there. They do AutoSR, et cetera, et cetera. But the other one is this game cheat software stuff, right? Because this is x86 specific. So even if you can get a game that would work on ARM somehow, the absence of this anti-cheat software is a problem. So Qualcomm has partnered with Epic Games, and they're going to bring the Epic Games anti-cheat software to ARM sometime this year. So that's fantastic. Now I'm sure that involved a big paycheck of some kind or whatever. I'm sure they're not doing it for
they made that work.
Yeah, it's not through the goodness of their heart, but that's great. And one of the first games they're going to port over will be, of course, Fortnite, right? So Fortnite being one of the games that uses that anti-cheat software. So that there's no date or time frame exactly other than this year, but that is in the works, and that's great. Discord, which I'm trying not to stare at as we record this show. I always have a problem with this. Is launching a social SDK that game developers can use to integrate social features into their own games, right? And so, Discord and I was just talking about using a web browser. I would say like game web browser is probably the most common kind of side by side, but Discord might be the second most.
I'm actually surprised this didn't exist before.
I was too, yeah. So it's possible they probably have an SDK, but now they're adding to it, and this is very specifically for that. I'm not really sure, but this company has over 200 million monthly active users now.
Discord was started so gamers could talk to each other while they were teabagging each other. Yeah.
Yes, because I used to, back in the day, crook the phone up in my thing so I could like make fun of my friends when we were playing Duke Nukem 3D.
Right.
Nice.
And I still
have a few Discord channels that where I was a alpha tester on a game. And we use Discord to communicate.
Nice. This will shock you guys to know that I was a horrible bully at this kind of stuff, and that like my friend and I would get into Quake World dressed as clowns, run around and just berate everyone, and we would be like, "Everyone loves a clown." Every time we killed someone, and then like these guys would just be like, "Could you please stop?"
How did you get a clown costume?
Because Quake World, you could have skins, and we chose the clowns. Because everybody loves a clown, Leo.
Sure. Insane clown posse.
Pretty sure nobody loves clowns. But anyway, Discord, smart. And then this not so smart. So there's a service that nobody knows exists called Google Play Games on PC. You're like, what is that? So Google Play Games on PC is Google making their own emulator for Windows so that you can play Android games on Windows. And the idea here is that if you don't have to do anything as a developer, but if you do, you can customize it for keyboard, mouse, et cetera, et cetera. So two big changes to this that they just announced this past week at GDC, right, at the Game Developer Conference. One is they're going to enable this for all games in the Google Play Store by default. So if you don't want your game on the PC for some reason, you can opt out, but they're actually just going to turn the switch. So I guess they've made some progress on this. But the other thing they're doing is they're introducing, I guess I'm going to call it an SDK. I'm not sure what else to call it. A way to put your native Windows game into the Play Store for Play Games for PC. So in other words, everything that's in there now is a mobile game, right? It's an Android game. Some of them are customized to work with keyboard, mouse. Some aren't. Some, if you have a touchscreen, you can do the touchscreen stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But they're actually going to open this up to developers who create native Windows games so that, in other words, you've already done it. You're not just you don't just show up and you're like, oh, I think I'll make a new game. I'll use this for some reason. You've already made your game. Maybe you're already selling it through Steam or wherever. You can add it to the Play Games for PC platform if you wanted to for some reason. I can't even imagine what the point of that is. This thing supported x86 generally, but Intel specifically. Now it supports AMD, works on desktop PCs and laptops, etc. There's a lot of customization you can do. Playing Android games on Windows seems reasonable to me, honestly.
It's kind of hysterical that Google had to write this. They
didn't have to, Leo.
Wasn't there an Android
system
for
they didn't have to. In fact, when they first started promoting this, Google went out of their way to explain to me, at least, that I just want you to know, we're not doing any of this Microsoft stuff. We did this all by ourselves. Right. It's not that code.
Microsoft
using that.
Used Amazon's store. They were so anti.
I think these might be interrelated, And by the way, that the Android subsystem stuff is going away this year soon, I think, mid-year, I think.
I thought it was already gone.
They announced it, but I think they're actually chopping it off at the legs pretty soon. And then Amazon announced recently they're getting rid of the Play Store, the Amazon App Store outside of their own
devices,
Kindle, tablet devices or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think Fire TV as well. Anyway, I don't really care. The Play Store thing for native games, whatever, but actually now they're going to turn on this funnel. Like that might make this interesting. There's probably a lot of great games.
There are.
I would like to play Call of Duty Mobile on my computer. Actually, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Railroad
But the problem is that the screens are.
Well, remember, they're a big screen, they're tablets, there are Chromebooks, these things run on those. So this is kind of the next logical step. And some games are going to look like crap. It's just not going to work good. They're going to run, maybe they run in portrait mode, whatever. But I don't know, like a game like Call of Duty Mobile, honestly, that probably look pretty great. So we'll see.
Yeah, and even if it is a bit scaled up, it's just going to be a bit bigger for you to see with your old eyes.
Yeah, it might be my ideal Call of Duty as we move forward in time. We'll see.
I get you, you rat. All right, we're going to pause.
Our readers first. Oh, wait.
We're going to pause. I was thinking, by the way, you were talking about how you would buy a bunch of stuff to make sure you didn't run out. And that was always my strategy with readers. You just buy so many that you saturate the environment and you can never lose them.
We when we were younger, made fun of a friend's father passed away, and I think they found 37 pairs of glasses in this guy's house. Yeah. We were like, oh,
they're cheap.
And now we have 37 pairs.
Yeah, just put them everywhere because you're going to need them.
Yep.
Every restaurant should have a pair of readers at the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Mexico, they have these tables that have legs that have like a circular kind of holder on the thing. And it's so if the table is full of stuff, you can put a bottle of whatever you might have down there on the leg.
Very smart.
It is smart.
You sure that's not a purse holder?
Yes. Oh, no, they have those. Those are
they have those too.
It's a cylindrical thing. It's designed to hold a bottle or a glass.
Cool.
Smart. But like you said, what it should have, and it should be on one of those rosary chain things, is like a pair of yeah, exactly. Because you look at the menu and you're like, what is this? It's in like 1 point type.
It's so funny when you go to a restaurant with people over 40 and they all have their phones and their flashlights on the phones on as
they're like going like back and forth,
and camera mode on and zoomed.
Some people are just taking pictures and zooming in.
Yeah. What does that say?
Getting old is the best.
It's no fun. Okay, it's the best. Paul says it's the best. You know what else is the best? Our fabulous Club Twit. We'd like to invite you all to join the club. It is $7 a month. I don't think you could get any less expensive than $7 a month. And for that, you get, I think, a lot of benefit. You get, of course, ad-free versions of all the shows. That's kind of, obvious. You're paying us. You shouldn't need to have ads. But you also get access to this Discord thing that Paul was talking about. This amazing Club Twit Discord. What a great hang. I mean, it is really a lot of fun. People are very funny in there. There's some readers. We're gonna have a lot of readers in there. Mm-hmm. We are doing a bunch of events in the club. Micah's Crafting Corner is tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to, there really is nothing to it. Micah's going to be building his little cozy, tiny kitchen, and you bring your own little craft, whatever it could be, Lego or needle point or whatever, and you can do it along with Mike, and it's just a fun little hang. Our AI user group is on the fourth Friday. This is something Anthony Nielsen started. He's our AI wizard here, and I'll be in there too, because it's really interesting to see how people use AI tools and share our tips with one another. We've got Stacy's book club coming up. We're going to book another coffee show with Mark Prince, the coffee geek. So a lot of fun things going on in the club. You also, I tell you, the Discord is a lot of fun. But you also get the warm and fuzzy feeling that you are helping us make content. It's not cheap to make the content that we make. We love doing it. We think it's important. Yes, thank you, advertisers, for supporting us. We started the club because we realized that we didn't want to be fully 100% dependent on advertising. We really I don't want to do a show just because I can get an ad on it. I want to do a show because you want to hear it. So this is your way to kind of support what we do, to let us know what more you want to hear and see and that kind of thing. If you're not yet a member, scan the QR code in the upper left-hand corner of your screen if you're watching on video, or go to twit.tv/clubtwit, twit.tv/clubtwit. Again, $7 a month. It's less than a venti latte at Starbucks now, which is kind of saying more about Starbucks than it's about the club. We invite you to join and be crafty with us. twit.tv/clubtwit. All right, back of the book time. Paul Thurrott, you want to do some more Xbox stuff? Go right ahead.
Yeah, why not?
Why?
I've made a weird transition from console gaming back to PC after whatever number of years that was, close to 20, I bet. And I noticed this morning that most of the Call of Duty games for PC are on sale in the Microsoft Store, up to 67% off. If there's a particular game you're looking for, you don't see it in the link that I have, search for that, because actually I found even the first game is actually on sale. The one caveat here is that a lot of the older games are not multiplayer enabled on PC. If you play this on console, I believe most of them actually still have the multiplayer stuff built in. And I think it's like an infrastructure thing, because on console that probably goes through Xbox Live or whatever, PlayStation. And I think on PC it's something like Activision had to do or whatever. But if multiplayer matters to you, make sure the game you're getting still supports it. Obviously, the most recent ones do. I think through, I want to say Infinite Warfare, whenever that was, something like that. But some of the prices are pretty good. I might actually get a couple of these. And then just during the show, I just discovered this. So Starduck is also having a big sale, and Starduck makes games, but they also make Windows apps, and they have a storefront inside of Steam. So if you just look at their Windows apps, like Start 11, Windows Blinds 11, etc., they have these things are for sale, typically 25% off, but some of them are actually more than 20. I think Windows Blinds is 50% off. So I can't see. I'm stuck in. Not stuck. I'm in Mexico, so I can only see the Mexico prices, and so they look really like 167. That's crazy. Oh wait, that's pesos. Right. That's actually pretty good. That's cheap. But yeah, if you're interested in any of this stuff, especially like a Start 11, Groupies, Window Blinds, whatever, this is worth checking out. This is, as far as the app pick goes, this is something I've avoided for years. And part of the reason I avoided is because of the nature of what I do. I have to kind of use and understand what Microsoft provides in Windows, right?
Sure.
So
and you deeply enjoy suffering, but one or the other.
I hate myself. So it's kind of the perfect nexus.
You hate yourself. I used to run my own Exchange server.
Exactly.
That's self-hatred. That's masochism.
It's not a contest, but yeah, okay, but you won that one. Yeah, so I'm the type of person who would complain about, like, say, File Explorer for years, and then people always be like, "Why don't you use ... And so every once in a while, I would use a File Explorer replacement for a specific purpose. Some of the digital decluttering stuff or whatever, but. I think I'm going to go down this path and try to figure this out. And so somebody had recommended randomly on social media something else. And I was like, nah, this is stupid. This is complicated. And so I just went down to the one thing I'm familiar with or I've heard about, which is an app called Files. So if you go to files.community, you'll find this thing. It's available in the Microsoft Store. It's free. It's open source. It's a gorgeous, modern looking app. It looks a lot like File Explorer. I can't say that it's like super fast compared to File Explorer. Actually, that would be a goal. So it's probable that I will have a future pick that's related to this. Will be a different app, but for now, this is obviously people who care about this thing. They want it to look good and run well and all that stuff. It passes through everything that you might have in Explorer. So if you use something like Google Drive, which has extensions to File Explorer, so you can mark things for offline, whatever, that stuff all works too. So tab-based, gorgeous design. It's not super fast, right? It's not super slow, but it doesn't feel faster to me than File Explorer. I'm kind of surprised by that. On the other hand, it does not badger you to back up folders to OneDrive. So something to look at. Like it's a beautiful app. Like
you'd think they'd now that they have all these features, that they'd work on optimizing for speed a little bit. Yeah. It doesn't feel slow. It just it's not as fast as Explorer, or
yeah. Well, it's hard to say. So one of the computers I'm going to review soon only has 16 gigs of RAM. It's in Lunar Lake. It's the lowest end Lunar Lake, and it's not great on that. In fact, It was problematic enough that I looked at it on the Snapdragon computer, and actually there is a native ARM version, right, which is always appreciated too, and it runs great over there. It's fine. It's not faster, but it's not noticeable. I would say this computer might be wheezing a little bit between it's a lower end processor. It's actually a lower end integrated graphics, which is Intel, and just 16 gigs of RAM. It's just not. It's not great. So maybe that might be part of the problem. Yeah. But it's a beautiful app. It really is a beautiful app. It's worth looking at. Nice. It certainly doesn't cost you anything. It's free. So
I completely understand though why you don't use it, because you got to write books. You can't have.
I gotta know.
Yeah,
he likes his suffering. But,
no, you can't, because you might accidentally put that in a screenshot, and everybody say, "Hey, what's that version of Explorer?
What's that beautiful looking thing that is not the piece of junk I use every day?" Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, one of the switches you can make, and I think other File Explorer type apps would do this, is you can make it the default File Explorer app, right?
Yeah. So you never see Explorer,
right? So to the point where it's Explorer.exe is running, but when you do the Windows key plus E keyboard shortcut, it launches this app, not File Explorer, which is nice.
I guess there's a lot of these because the chat rooms come up.
I think there are a bunch
of different names.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of them will, like Directory Opus. So like there'll be these, really kind of power user complex UI. It's like I get it, but this to me is Microsoft should just use this. Like it's much nicer looking than Explorer.
I'm sure that's what its authors had hoped.
Yeah.
It's the same on Apple though. On Macs, there's a lot of alternative choices. None of which I end up using because I just it's like, okay.
You get all the good Markdown editors on the Mac. We get a bunch of File Explorer replacements. It's like a different worlds, different needs. I don't know.
All right, Richard, you're up. Time for your Run as Radio for this week.
Yeah, the Sonia Cuff's been a regular for many years. She's out of Australia and works for Microsoft. Knows her way around the things. Certainly a strong IT person, and we end up with these broader conversations most of the time, and talking about managing AI costs specifically, just helping people understand how they're billed, how it's different. This concept of token costs and so forth, and why you might want to try different models and manage the costs that way and understand the billing and effects. And especially when we get down into the cloud infrastructure, it's, can I assign these AI costs to the apps that are using them and to the users so that we can see where utilization is happening, trying to get that breakdown of all the different pieces. And we also ended up on the carbon footprint side too, because that's an ongoing conversation for a lot of organizations as to where is your power coming from for these kinds of things. And that also sort of played against the FinOps model of how you cost your infrastructure, how those costs work together. So a bit of an accounting show, but it's a necessary part of the equation, being responsible. Sysadmin is also understanding where the money's going.
Everybody wants to save money, Richard. It's not a...
Well, and for many years now on Run As I've been doing that once a year. Hey, this is your old uncle telling you to do the right thing. It's you have a working relationship with your CFO. Yeah. And the better granularity you can apply to costs and then potential return on investment, the happier you're going to be. And I get some nice emails every so often from someone saying, hey, I got to tell you, I took your advice and I have a quarterly with the CFO and I can get my budget through pretty easy now.
Nice.
Because you're having an ongoing conversation of what's important, what isn't, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think that's really important for IT because a lot of times, especially cybersecurity, it's not a profit center. It's hard to justify the spend because it doesn't make you money. And
it's a conversation we've had where it's like, how do you differentiate between IT and the cleaning service of the office?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because
it's just another line.
Yeah. Because if you're just equated as an expense, then it's all about cutting it.
Yep.
And so when you associate it with risk for the company, when you associate it with efficiency for the company, when you show returns on things, all those things are true. It's just that it's super easy when people don't understand what you do you're just taking out the trash for us.
All right. Finally, I get to say, after how many episodes of whiskey? Hundreds. I get to say, it's Suntory time.
We can. I really am doing a Suntory whiskey, and I did pick this up at the local shop, the Toki. We have talked about Suntory time before, right? Suntory is one of the big conglomerates, one of the big four. And so they bought Beam. So they're now, for a while, they were called Beam Suntory. And I went back and watched the movie.
Love that movie.
We did
with
this
an
recently.
Extremely young ScarJo looking quite exploited,
It does feel that way, but Sofia Coppola directed it, so I feel like
I'm with you.
She probably wasn't exploited. It certainly made her a star.
I just saw it was a lot of inappropriate underwear shots.
Right at the beginning, she's jumping around in her bed in her underpants. It's like we're talking about translation. What is it?
Lost in
translation.
Yep,
that's what it is.
It's funny. We just had this conversation, my wife and I. That's amazing.
It's funny how movies that you remember one way age differently. And then you look back on them, times have changed. And
you didn't know who she was when this happened, obviously, and Bill Murray's Bill Murray, whatever. But I
didn't know she was going to be this phenomenal star and all those sorts of things. It also falls on the Edmund Fitzgerald too, because without that song, nobody remember that shipwreck. Like there's plenty of shipwrecks and lots of sailors have died, but Gordon Lightfoot made everybody remember one of them. Put him in the same league as the Titanic.
Maybe Gordon should sing a song about Scarlett Johansson.
I'm sure there's plenty. So we've gone over Suntory a little bit before. 1899, Shinjiro Tori starts a wine importation business in Osaka. He was only 20 years old when he did this and is quite successful. The name Suntory is actually a play on his name. His last name was Tori. And so when you refer to him, you'd call him Tori-san. And so Suntory. The big product for him that made him all his money was a thing they called Akadama wine, which is actually blending Portuguese wine with sweeteners. And by the early 1900s, he has 60% of the market. He falls in with a guy named Masasaka Takaturo in 1920, who'd been in Scotland studying whiskey, and they set up the very first whiskey distillery in Japan, in the Yamazaki distillery, in a location between Kyoto and Osaka. The whiskey is very bad, and Taketsuru goes back to Scotland to try and figure more things out. They finally get an edition out in 1929. They call Shirafoda. Then people don't buy it because it's bad. After 10 years of working on this problem, Taketsuru left Yamazaki At the end of his contract, he believed that the distillery was in the wrong location and could not make good whiskey. So he then, puts his money where his mouth is and creates his own distillery up in Hokkaido called Nikkei, the second distillery, with terrain much more like Scotland. He believed that was an essential part. And Nikkei is also a successful distillery. And that was the story I told previously. We were talking about Japanese whiskey and then focused on Nikkei and so forth. We didn't really get into where Suntory went from there, because by 1937, the famous Suntory whiskey becomes huge with the Japanese soldiers. He gets a big contract with the military, and so that does extremely well. And even after the war, continues to be popular to the point that by the late 60s, Suntory is a very successful, wealthy company. And Shinjiro's son, Keizo, who's also working in the business, now opens additional distilleries. He opens two, and one in 72 and one in 73. The first is the Chita Distillery near Nagoya, actually on a peninsula called the Chita Peninsula, where they're actually making grain whiskey. They're using corn. And so they're making industrial alcohol products as well as drinking alcohols as well. And then in 1973, the Hakushu Distillery in the Japanese Alps, taking a cue from what Takeshiru had said, they moved to a more mountainous, cooler region. They made this additional distillery, although otherwise operated very much like Yamazaki. The single malts don't become popular until the 80s. And that's when the first of the Yamazakis come out. Their blend Hibiki in 89. And then that new distillery they built in 73, Hakushu, makes their first production single malt. And it was famously in 2003 when Lost in Translation came out, was also the first time that a Japanese whiskey ever won a World Whiskey Award. They won gold for the Yamazaki 12, sending a $40 a bottle whiskey to $400 in a matter of days, because why wouldn't you cash in?
Yeah.
And this Toki first comes along in 2016, so it's almost 10 years old. It is a blended whiskey, but what's interesting about it, unlike the other blends, which typically bought from many different distilleries, this is actually a combination of the three distilleries that Yamazaki owns. So Hakushu, not that, the original Suntory whiskey was also a blend from the Yamazaki distillery. This particular edition is primarily the Hakushu malt with a little bit of the older Yamazaki blended into it, and then a bunch of the Chita grain whiskey added. So the Yamazaki and Hakushu distilleries are quite similar. They don't do their own maltings anymore. Nobody does for the most part. They buy malted and gristed barley from all over the world. Most of the time not peated, but you occasionally find a Yamazaki with a little bit of peat in it. They don't use a ton of it. Their setup is large. They have a pair of gigantic mash tuns for their initial mashes, and then they use both Oregon pine and stainless steel wash packs, big ones. Their fermentation is of sort of medium length because it is warmer there, so they don't go into the hundreds of hours, somewhere between 60 and 80. One of the interesting quirks of both the Yamazaki and Hakushu distilleries is that they continue to use direct fire on their wash stills. Now and then they use steam heat for their spirit still. Now they switch to spirit. The reason to switch to steam heat is to stop explosions, right? When you're evaporating alcohol, you're creating an explosive environment, and having open fire in that space is dangerous. And so as soon as steam made sense, most distilleries switched to it. But there is a side effect of using direct fire on the wash still, which is that you're roasting some of the materials left from the wort that gives an additional flavor. And so the Yamazaki's folks decided that was important. And so they've kept it in. They use natural gas, although apparently there are experiments with hydrogen flames now, which are extra double dangerous.
Oh my God.
But also, well, if you ever take a tour of the still building on a distillery site, you'll find that the buildings are heavily vented there. Roofs are open to open air. There's often big openings along the bottom, and it's to keep the alcohol concentrations down, limit the amount of explosions. And even if you do have what's called a flash, the building's not holding any pressure, so it's easy to dissipate the pressure and you won't blow the building apart. But their argument is sound that you get a lot when you're using steam under minimal pressure. You're really not going to get much more than 100, 120 degrees centigrade onto the still. And that's all arguably too hot as it is, because you want lower than that for the alcohol evaporation rate. When you're using direct fire, you get hundreds of degrees, and so you do get that toasting effect, and it builds new flavors. part of the effect of that particular
Sounds
step.
like it's worth the risk.
Well, and just do it properly. Hundreds of years they've been using direct fire and not blowing up very often. Just got to be disciplined.
And not
so
usually
often.
blowing up. Yep.
Yeah. Interestingly, and again, both the Yamazaki and Hakushu, they are using only pot stills, fairly big ones, 15 to 20,000 liters, but a variety of shapes. They, the stills comes in pairs, and they have like 8 to 12 sets, depending on which distillery you're talking about. But they're not uniform. They're not all the same because they make a variety of whiskeys, and so they have different stills for different purposes. They have warehouses at both distillery sites, plus a number of other sites. They build them their own way. They tend to be out of stone, but they stack tall. They use mostly third-party barrels, so largely ex-bourbon, especially for Suntory now. They own a whole bunch of the bourbon industry. They owning Beam. They also use sherry casks, and of course the famous Mizunara oak, which is the Japanese oak. It's extremely hard to make barrels from. The Cheetah Distillery is a completely different creature. It's in a different location. It's at the Cheetah Peninsula, which is actually a big food processing area. So it's in the center of the big agricultural brand in Japan, and a lot of foodstuffs come and go from that port, and they're still right in the middle of it. And it is because it's made for grain distillery, they use column stills. They actually have 4 of them named the wash, extraction, rectifying, and purifying distilleries. And depending on what they're making, they'll use 2, 3, or 4 of those columns. So your strongest tasting spirits only go through 2 of the columns, like the wash and rectifying column. And then there's a medium where they'll add the extraction column and go to 3. And then if they do all 4, that's your lightest high. If you're going to really make like rubbing alcohol and get to 99%, you need all 4.
So that's where Toki is made. Is it the Cheetah?
So Toki is actually made blended at the Hakushu distillery, primarily made from Hakushu. But as is typical with blended whiskeys, you add little grain because it's inexpensive.
Right.
So your flavors are going to come from those single malts that you've combined, but mostly this is going to be grain alcohol because it's cheap. But it's also all of their grain distillation is done with corn, and so it's going to be sweet as well. So if I give this a taste, and notice how pale this is. It's quite a straw color, like not real dark whiskey, but it's not particularly old. It has no age declaration on it.
They call it modern. It's their modern whiskey.
And it is, without a doubt. I mean, Japanese whiskey, I've always thought seems rather clinical. It's very precisely made, very Japanese style. This is nice and sweet and fruity up front, not a big alcohol hit, which is impressive it is a 43%. So they're not just going to the minimum 40, but it's gentle and it's got a little bit of heat coming out at the end. So, and we're talking less than $40 US. You can find this. It's a blend. And it's Japanese at 43%. So don't feel bad about making this into a cocktail. It's legit, but it drinks perfectly fine on its own. This is, I would argue, the most approachable of Japanese whiskeys, right? This is the Jack of Japanese.
The Jack.
Yeah. If you've got a family member who throws Coke in it, I mean, they're brain damaged, but you're not actually wasting
We
whiskey,
do.
right?
We do. And I caught him with the Angel's Envy, and I said, stop.
Oh, no.
I said,
At
stop.
least use Tab for that. Come on, man.
Fresca, if nothing else.
Sorry.
I stopped him, and then he was going, then he was a Clonakilty. I said, no, you can't put Coke in Clonakilty.
Please. So
That should
Toki,
explode.
If you just want to have a Japanese whiskey around, have a bottle of Toki around.
This is a good idea. I should buy some and say, here's for your,
here you go. Right. It's from
drinks.
the original Japanese distillers in Japan. It's one of the largest companies in the world, for better or worse, in the booze business. And reasonably priced. And it's still distinctly a Japanese whiskey.
Yeah, and nobody's going to look at it and say, oh, you got me in cheap whiskey.
Yeah,
No, the bottles are always beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. And if you sat this beside the Yamazaki 12, which you would, if you could find one, and that's very difficult, you would have paid hundreds for.
Right.
Arguably, the bottle's not even as nice looking as this thing.
Right. No, this is a good looking square bottle. It's very pretty.
It's distinct. But you know what else? It's got a screw top, right? No cork or anything. Like, it is an inexpensive bottle. Like, it's been done very efficiently. But
good.
Keep this one around. You will have a nice Japanese with you, and arguably one of the least expensive Japanese made.
Now, did you for $100, let's say, What would be a good Irish whiskey? Maybe that Capel Castle would be good.
If you can
This sounds like a personal request, like you're trying to use them as a personal shopper kind of a thing.
Exactly.
And to be honest, I get messages. I know at least every week somebody says,
sure.
"Hey, I want to get." And
When you're a whiskey expert, people are going to want to know.
and if you're going to go
People
Irish
ask me
for
like,
100,
which file explorer should I use?
I bought him the bottle of the Middleton that came in a nice wood box. He liked that a lot.
those are nice. I would get the Redbreast 12, or if you want to spend a little more, the Redbreast 15.
We've gotten him Redbreast before. I think he likes that.
How about the Yellow Spot then?
I don't think we've done the Yellow Spot.
Go to the Yellow Spot. So the Green Spot's the base one, and it's less than $100.
Okay.
The Yellow Spot's going to be in the 150 range, and then there is a Blue Spot and a Red Spot, but those are very hard to find and pricey. It's just an aging thing. I believe the green is 8 and the yellow is 10. And so and it is genuinely nicer. It's a nice bottle, but
I'll look for a Yellow Spot. That's
Green
good.
Spot all day long too, friend. Like
I can't remember where we got him. I mean, might have bought him. I mean, Lisa got it for him, so she might have.
If you like the Redbreast, he'll like the Green Spot.
He did. He liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
If you can find the Cabot Castle, get it. It's just unusual. It'll be tricky to find.
Yeah,
and it's just one of the many Middletons. Although to be clear, both Redbreast and
they're all
Yellow
Middleton.
Spot, they're all Middletons. Yeah,
it's all Middleton all the way. Mr. Wonderful Richard Campbell, it's so great to have you on, and you're multimodal.
This is what you're trying to say.
Polymathic expertise in so many areas. He is at runasradio.com.
Thousands of podcasts, and I can't forget any of them. So there you go.
He's got a memory.
I meanwhile am submodal.
Yes. He is, that is, Rich is at runasradio.com, and of course, Dotnet Rocks with Carl, all at runasradio.com. Great to have you. You're going on the road pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, next week in Redmond for the MVP Summit. So I'm going to try and secure one of the Channel 9 studios.
Okay.
Get as I've done before.
And if you want to bring a guest, don't hesitate.
We'll see. Who would you like me to bring there?
I don't know, Paul. Who should he get?
Oh boy, I don't know.
But you could confer offline. You don't have to make any enemies now. Although that is always fun.
Just talking off the top of my brain has always worked well. No,
I'm just saying we could put an extra window in if you needed another.
Okay. Well, it'd probably be a side by side with the smart cameras. So
yeah, we'll do something. Thank you, Richard. Paul Thurrott. Thurrott.com. His books, Windows Everywhere and the Field Guide to Windows 11, are available at leanpub.com. You should really get both of them. And anything you want to... I noticed on the front page of Thurrott.com,
yep,
there was a comment. Somebody said, what's going to happen to first ring?
I know. People get nervous. Nothing's going on.
Nothing's going on.
Brad had to go up to Michigan for work this week. Oh,
okay.
I was away Monday, Tuesday.
So there was no first ring daily for the week yet, but there will be when you reunite.
Look,
so fear not.
You're getting what you pay for with this podcast. It's no, I don't know. No, there's no problem.
Good. That's a relief. Become a premium member at Thurrott.com for even more of Paul's goodness.
For more than nougaty center.
As we say, it's
that chewy, yummy goodness.
It says it on the front page of the site. It's podcasts, Paul, and premium content all the way down.
The 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Thanks to all of you. Special thanks to our Club Twit members who, of course, make all of this possible. We stream Windows Weekly every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1800 UTC. You can watch those streams in a variety of places. There's 8 different places you can watch it. Of course, club members get to watch in the Club Twit Discord and chat along as they watch. But we are also on YouTube for open to all, Twitch, X.com, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. So that's 8 different places you can watch. If you want to watch live, you don't have to, because we have this new technology. We got a wire recorder, and we record everything, and then we deliver it to you via Pony Express within the next 6 to 8 weeks. No, we don't know. You can get it later today at twit.tv/WW. Just download a copy or go to the YouTube channel dedicated to the video of Windows Weekly, or better yet, subscribe. You won't have to think about it. You'll just always have the latest version. Choose audio or video or both. Just find your favorite podcast player, and I'm sure they'll have Windows Weekly. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.